He's just another bad joke. You can be a dumb little donkey like Eeyore. I'm gonna be an auto hoax, and it feels so good. Yeah. You just ought to believe everything like I knew that you would.
Okay, we are live. 1:15, 2025, and phones are immediately open. It's open phones, open topics. You can kind of set the agenda here. Kind of want to check the pulse of the IPS. Joined by Smarty Pants. Let's go, Frank Mirror. Awesome. So I got a couple of things from the other day I want to bring up again. For example, Miles Mathis put out a great piece on the Palisades fire, and he wrote here, quote, "I don't trust anything the stars are telling us, even about their own homes. Remember, they are actors, and they create fiction for a living, so get your information somewhere else." Sounds like common sense, but he wrote this before it was revealed that James Wood was crying. James Woods was crying about his house burning and everything being destroyed, and later found out that it wasn't destroyed, so it was a miracle. But he was crying in advance, which I understand. It's upsetting. However, it just seems a little more phony than a lot of the things we've been looking at lately. This whole thing is just seems to me that ever since 10/7, really, skepticism, even among so-called Normieville, has kind of become increasingly popular. It's disbelief by default. That's why you can't hate on the flatties for not accepting the final experiment. You're going to blame them because they think this thing was filmed inside of a big studio? I mean, give me a break. You're going to blame them for being skeptical. I follow some big channels on Twitter, and I'm frequently unfollowing people. I block people. All it takes is one offense. One offense such as this. There's a channel called Nature is Amazing. Millions of followers, and he sends this video out there. Diver helping a shark. So he's removing a hook from the mouth of a shark. This is on Nature is Amazing, and I used to watch their videos. So I'm watching this video, and he's pulling the hook out of the shark, and it seems really nice. I see nothing wrong with it. However, apparently sharks have at least 5 gills, and the AI didn't get this. So this is fake. So this guy has got, 5 million views? It was 2 million when I first saw this. Now it's 5.2 million views. So they're just making money by deep faking people. And the deep fakes have crossed that point, as we have been kind of positing before. Like, what's going to happen when the fakery gets so good that the best of us can't see through it? Like, I now believe in whale-sized clownfish because I've seen it on TikTok and Twitter, and it looks real. And so that can't be your standard. It looks real. You have to disbelieve by default. So the Antarctica thing happens to look fake. It objectively looks fake. It really does. Now, that's just my criticism. I'm not saying it is fake. I'm not even suggesting it's fakeable. I mean, to an extent, everything is fakeable, but there's a scale problem here. You're talking about, then again, if you are considering the final experiment to be a hoax, you are talking about NASA and how many millions of dollars they get per day. But anyway, my point is, I don't hold it against them for disbelieving. I think disbelieving by default is wise. So today, Flat Earth Zone posted this, where he's convinced that he sees a corner. Like as in a corner where the ceiling meets the wall. Like, this is Truman Show stuff. So either he's mistaken, or there's an explanation that has to do with the camera, or we live in a massive Truman Show. And instead of an ice wall holding in the oceans of the flat Earth, it's a massive encircling LED screen. Let me play this short clip from the Flat Earth Zone.
In here, and what do I see? So the cool thing about this is you can zoom in on the screen. Can you see it? So running right up here a right angle all the way across, and it looks like things converge into this corner.
Now, they're calling this stitch gate. Stitch gate. So we have a new gate. Vape gate is out. Stitch gate is in. And they're going to have to deal with this one. And the explanation is going to probably be something about the hardware itself. But what he is zooming in on is it does appear to be a line. You have to look close.
And if you look at down here, right, this line runs all the way up from almost this camera. Okay. So let's zoom in on it again. Let's zoom in. I mean, when you zoom in, I mean, the corner is completely obvious.
Now, in his defense, I mean, really, I kind of see it too, but I'm not going to say this is all filmed in a big stage. I've seen enough of the surrounding footage where, I mean, what are they suggesting now? Like, what part of this is being faked? It is weird. The whole thing is really weird. There shouldn't be any discrepancies, but people are jumping the gun, which I understand. But in the process, you get educated. So maybe you're saying, hey, these shadows don't make sense. But then you find out, well, actually they do. So you learn by challenging in a sense, but we have to be careful from simply dismissing things or jumping to, like, grasping at straws, in other words. Like, what does this really mean? But what does the 24-hour sun really mean anyway? Well, it would somewhat make it impossible to comport with the flat earth model as posited with the ball inside of the dome thing. But as I've said from the beginning of this channel, models are premature. And I put flat earthers who have a model in the same category as globe earthers who have their little model. I think they're equivalent, and I'm not either. I'm shape agnostic until I get better evidence. And I'm slow to believe because I don't trust anything on TV. And if you hold that against me, what are you? I mean, like, it's like a religion now. Media fundamentalism. You don't believe it on the screen. It's like the non-believers are called conspiracy theorists. And it's like, no, we are informed non-believers. We have good information, which supports our stance. Okay, joined by Diana South, LAC, Zinvelis, King Ravana, Thirst for Truth. Gondola Wish says, I noticed your Led Zeppelin shirt. Have you ever explored the occult meaning of the songs in their background? Yeah, I wore my Led Zeppelin shirt as a shout out to Sloppy Johnny Cerrucci, who put out a video today claiming that I had Satan tattooed on my chest. And I'm like, that's funny. But if you don't know who that is, it's probably because he's got this little niche conspiracy where the Pope runs the world. And it's not the Jews, it's not the reptiles, it's the Pope in his story. And nobody cares about that anymore. Not that I know of. But I talked to him once. We had a great conversation. He's kind of an anti-vaxxer, MSM plus, Orthodox truther. I have no problem with that, but that's just not us. We had a nice conversation, and then the next day, he put out a hit piece on me. And then he put out a couple more pretty bad things. And it's not that I'm offended, but that the things he was saying are factually untrue. He claimed that I embezzled $10,000 from Mad Mike. He said that I was a Luciferian. And so that's why I'm wearing this Led Zeppelin shirt. I'm trying to trigger the church lady. Like, if you're triggered by this, like, what are you doing on the internet? Like, you should be in church right now. Like, why isn't he not in church? All right, let's see. Neon Shades of Grey. Maybe you should stream on Goyim TV. Oh, yeah, that's Shuby DeWap, the rapper turned Hitlerite. Isn't he friends with Candace Owens? I've seen these characters. I don't know him very well, but I know that he's kind of like a more racist Alex Stein, kind of a loudmouth troll. But he knows how to get headlines, that's for sure. Reverse History, thanks for joining. Gondola Wish says, wait till AI begins generating things in real life. Yeah, it probably already is. I'm really impressed by Grok, I have to say. The Grok images, it's outpaced Bing, because the censorship, the guardrails they put into some of these things just makes it unusable. CMG says, anything is fakeable if you have enough suckers. Oh yeah, absolutely. And one other point here. You don't have to have everybody believe. You just need to have like half the people, like 51%, because, and people will cite various experiments where, there's a perception test where which line on the wall is the shortest. And people will change their answers if everybody disagrees with them. Yet in these studies, they're telling, the Confederates in the study are pretending to disagree with the right answer. And they'll find that people will tend to agree with what everybody else is saying, despite what their senses are telling them. It's this self-gaslighting, which I think is self-preservation, so you don't piss off the mob. It's like an insecurity thing. People just conform. But there's this other show we mentioned before called Space Cadets. It's like a 10-episode series where they had people convinced that they were in low Earth orbit in a craft, a spaceship. But the way they pulled this off is 5 of the astronauts were actors. Unlike the ISS, where they're all actors. But in this TV show, 5 were actors, and 5 thought they were going to be astronauts. And as long as the actors could keep the real people from talking to each other and forming conspiracy theories about how fake it is, they were able to maintain the illusion. And they maintained the illusion. These people thought they were in space. A.K. Parrish says, I'm convinced humans aren't meant to know what this place is, just believe what resonates with them, and that's their reality. Yeah, I'm also open to this idea that the ultimate truth, whatever it is probably not something we can process. Try to explain trigonometry to a dog. Like maybe we're just so far beneath grasping the big picture. So I keep these limitations in mind, but I also know that there are things that are accessible to us that are kept out of reach. I happen to think that one of the most suppressed technologies might actually be this thing that gets thrown into the category of magic or psionics. Just my opinion. Lean Dion says, old Johnny Circucci. Yeah, I'm calling him Sloppy Johnny because his research is so terrible. I mean, let me go ahead and play this clip. I do have something from... I posted a blog about this. Okay, here he is. Now this is him. Now this is not a real picture. It's a deep fake. For those of you who are trickable like I am. And I'm not going to go through all of it. Well, I might as well. Might as well address it. So this is him. This is not really him. This is his face cropped onto the Pope's body. Let's see what else. Okay, hold on here. I'm just going through your comments. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Phones are going to be open, by the way. Okay, so here's what I wrote. So this post, by the way, came out this morning, says terrible opposition researcher. So this is a response to his attempt to, I guess, attack me or something, which doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, I have to really know somebody to hate them or to even care. And there are so many people, so many trolls that you have to kind of filter it out, choose your battles, if anything. And so I don't have any personal issue with this person. I don't know enough about him to care. But here's what I'm going to just state about this, because like I said, we had spoken before. It appears that he uncritically believes whatever he hears. And he lives in a bubble. But here's the various claims he made. He said that I am wrong on vaxes, viruses, and chemtrails. IPS is a Masonic cult. I am behind the perv. The Jesuit tactic of setting up flawed sources of truth, presenting as a hero to discredit a subject. Did he embezzle $10,000 from the Mad Mike Hughes Fund? So that's just a sampling. So point 1, correct. I do not believe in chemtrails because they do not exist. I do not believe in chemtrails. And if you believe in chemtrails, your belief is superstition. It's not even a theory, it's a superstition. In fact, it's actually belligerent reality denialism at this point. It's as bad as climate change-ism, these chemtrail Gretas. And the people who claim that they believe in these things don't wear masks. That's your first clue that they don't really mean it. Put on a mask, then I'll take you seriously. As far as the anti-vax, it's a panic-driven movement controlled by the same PSYOP entertainment complex that brought you the scamdemic. It's part of the same movie. Now, I did joke to a troll in a direct message. It was like a private message on Facebook, and I was being ironic. This person said that we were a cult, the IPS, and I said, yeah, IPS is a Masonic cult. So he took that screen cap from that DM and said that, no, I'm unironically proclaiming that we are a Masonic cult. Well, if we are, this is like the cheapest one. I believe our dues are like $5 a month. What does your local Masonic Lodge charge you for your weekly steak dinner or whatever they do? Gondola says IPS should start a cult so it can get religious tax exemption. Oh yeah, tax exemption. Someone's brought that up to me before, and I thought, there is a basis for it if we wanted to. I think so. But forming a cult does have certain advantages, tax advantages, sure. I'm kind of open to it, to be honest. We'd have to take a different direction. Like, hey, we're not just being skeptical of the media anymore. We're auto-hoaxing reality. We're questioning death itself. And we could say we're taking it into a decidedly spiritual direction. And we don't have to do yoga, or we don't have to fast or any of that stuff. We just change our general focus from mainstream media to the more metaphysical. Now, I did produce Behind the Perv. He said he's behind the Perv. Yeah, I produced it. And Behind the Perv is a documentary about all of these predator enablers who are active in the Flat Earth Conference community. All the people setting up the Flat Earth Conference. And I hate to drop names, but Robbie Davidson made a documentary with Philip Stallings, who founded the Bible Flat Earth Society. And that guy's in prison for life for crimes against children. Horrible stuff. We exposed this stuff in a documentary, and we exposed that people like Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole were apologists for these characters. They were behind the perv. He's like, yeah, well, Authentic Intent didn't know she was a minor. She said she was 18. It's like, that doesn't matter. That's psychopathic. That's just horrible. And when I exposed this group of undesirables, these are just really, people should be in prison. But we pointed this stuff out. And we were more or less outgrouped from the Flat Earth Conference community. But why would that be a bad thing? Why is Johnny Circucci mad? Or why is he saying it's a bad thing that I'm behind a documentary that was a good thing? You have to expose these things. And then he said, I stole $10,000 from Mad Mike. That's crazy. The truth of it is the IPS raised the money for his rocket launch. And it's the subject of a documentary called Rocket Man, Mad Mike's Mission to Prove the Flat Earth. And he emphatically states that this launch wasn't going to do it. He had a space launch proposed for later. But if you're not familiar with the Mad Mike story, no, he was on our side. We did the fundraising for him. In fact, I wrote his biography. He on the phone with me, he basically would describe things. He would tell me about these various parts of his life, and I would transcribe it. And his biography was quoted in the New Yorker last April in an article about misinformation. So the idea that I was somehow involved in embezzling is just pure made-up fiction. But I'm just going to play about 15 seconds from the trailer, Rocket Man.
Mike, hang in there, buddy.
A California man is getting ready to launch himself into the air in a homemade rocket to prove that the Earth is flat.
Okay, says Research Flat Earth. That was our billboard. That's how he got a hold of us. But it's a good documentary if you haven't seen it. And he got a ton of media attention. You have people like Joe Rogan. Who is this guy? Lewis Black. You have Tosh. Just a lot of celebrities were commenting on this phenomenon. All under the misunderstanding that this launch was going to prove the Earth flat. No, it was just to get attention so that he could finance the raccoon later.
Favorite barbecued moron.
A lot of people got the idea that he's just some kind of a nut. He might just be crazy.
Anyway, moving on. Starting a cult sounds fun, says my third eye. Right. Well, there's a difference between destructive cults and constructive cults. And in a way, we could say that this is a constructive cult because it's not built on making the individual a component in a whole at all. We're not trying to create an echo chamber. We're actually trying to maintain this open platform and encourage debate. And it's not like I'm telling people what to believe. We're just trying to agree on at least the basic operating system here. Like, are we skeptics? Are we going to allow logically fallacious claims to perhaps obscure our assessment? No, absolutely not. All right, let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on this individual, but let me just play this one clip so you can hear it in his own words. This is...
I know all about this guy. He is a Luciferian. He's got a tattoo of Satan on his chest. Now, I can't verify that. He was behind some kind of fundraising for Mad Mike Hughes. What was the fundraising for? Supposedly the guy died on a penis rocket, flat earth experiment. And I said, this is extremely Jesuitical.
It's very Jesuitical. Now, nothing he said was true or remotely accurate. Nothing. It's remarkable how wrong he was in every single statement here.
And I said, this is extremely Jesuitical.
Because I'm a Jesuit, obviously. So there you have it. Just setting the record straight. I'm not am I a Jesuit or a Luciferian? I mean, which is which? Are Jesuits Luciferian? The Society of Jesus? Van Gogh says, take off your shirt, Tim. Let's see that Chet Hanks tat. Yeah, I got the Illuminati triangle. Yeah, Chet Hanks. I swear that was like what Rock wears. One of those rubber muscle suits they wear underneath their clothes. You think The Rock is using drugs to maintain this impossible physique to make movies at the expense of his heart? No. He's probably I'm not saying he's a beanpole, but I'm pretty sure The Rock is, as we said this before, he's the rubber. Rock is the rubber. He's wearing a rubber muscle suit. And those things are so real you can't tell the difference. I've seen some behind the scenes, various movies. I mean, these things have everything. Okay, let's see here. We have good news, perhaps. Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, very trustworthy source here. I think he's a top ufologist. Although I don't think ufology is an ology. It is in fact a superstition. But he claims that a group of UFO whistleblowers will be going public within the next 72 hours.
Starting this podcast now, rather emergently here today, is because we have a group of people who are in the process in the next 72 hours or so who will be coming forward with a great deal of information and evidence related to the UFO and NHI or extraterrestrial issue. And I think the public is going to need to have a source of perspective and context.
Okay, so he's announcing a new podcast.
And analysis to go to. And so I feel that this is the time for me to start a podcast like this.
Okay, that's why. He sees that subscription revenue model and he's going to cash in. So I don't expect anything in the next 72 hours, but the UFO cult is not ufology. Again, it's a superstition. And you could place chemtrails into the same area. So listen to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said regarding the wildfires in California. She said, why don't they use geoengineering, like cloud seeding, to bring down rain on the wildfires in California? They know how to do it. Okay, now, cloud seeding is not geoengineering. Cloud seeding is one of these things where they enhance an existing cloud and make it more likely to give rain or enhance the rain, but it's very local. It's not the same as climate change. It's not geoengineering. And it's not even that effective from what I've looked at. I mean, I think it's questionable. I think you'd get more for your money buying lots of just bottled water and dumping it. I mean, really, it just doesn't seem that impressive. It's not even slightly impressive. So I'm not really into this cloud seeding thing. Like it's this spray and it makes clouds and it rains. That doesn't exist. You have to have clouds. Were there clouds there to even seed? I don't think so. But Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this the other day. And what Mick West asked here, and I think this is a valid question. Marjorie Taylor Greene, stupid or just gone fool populist? Now, I don't like using the word stupid just because you disagree with somebody. I don't use that word because I really don't think it's the fact. You know, you can be wrong about things, figure it out. My point here is does she believe this crap is what he's asking, or is she pandering? She's pandering. The same people who are against FEMA, who are against meteorologists because they think they control the weather, that's the same group of people on the right who are targeted with geoengineering climate change kind of related conspiracy theories. So the left believes in climate change and it's caused by the right wing, and the right believes in geoengineering and cloud seeding as this nefarious technology, and they blame it on the left or the government. And that's what she means when they know how to do it. She means the government. So she knows that most of the people who listen to her, and a lot of them are hitting the Q pipe. And I'm not saying crackheads. I'm not trying to be offensive to crackheads. I'm saying the Q people, Q-R-A-C-K, they believe this stuff, and she knows it. So she's pandering. So she's just gone full populist to answer Mick West's question here. She doesn't really believe it. She's being told what to say. You know, none of these politicians write their own books. There's a list of authors I've found that, and I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure they all have the same author. They don't even sell very well anyway. You know, somewhere in this country, hopefully out there in the Palisades, I don't know, somewhere there's a warehouse full of Donald Trump Jr.'s book, Triggered, because nobody reads it. They buy warehouses full of these books and they stash them, artificially inflating their sales stats. They get in the rankings, and then later they're pulled down because they gamed the system. And they'll say, oh, we were in the top 10, but the New York Times pulled us down because they're liberal and we're canceled. And then it helps them market their product. Tangents. Okay, let's see here. Plain Decoded says Jesuit and Masonic obsessions should be considered a disorder at some point. Yes. Yeah, I happen to agree with that assessment there, that there's a myopic view here, that you can just find one particular group and attach everything to it. And I don't think that's the case. Like, I think you could take the people who are, we'll call them the programming class, and swap them out with any other group, and it would operate the same way. I think it's almost the case, too, that everything is interconnected at some point anyway. It's like a hydra. Like, all the religions are part of the same basic framework. And I think this is also true for the dominant paradigms, scientism in our worldview informed by science. I think it is also nothing more than I distinguish science, the methodology, from beliefs, where it has supplanted religion. But they're all just this compatible one world religion. I don't think there's a big difference. So if you're saying the Masons control things or the Jesuits control things, it's like, well, you might both be right. But at a certain point, though, it's not that simple. It's not really a whodunit. It's more of a what is it? And the people who are chasing the Jesuits are so focused on that, they may not realize that none of what we're seeing is real. Like, you have to also factor in that when you have a scapegoat, you're blaming them for something. But the some things that they're being blamed for are things that generally don't even exist. So what are we mad at them for? These scapegoats all turn out to be red herrings. This is where it's at, says, sup, Tim. The targeted individual community on YouTube is weird. They are paranoid. Yeah, it's very easy to tap into your own cognitive bias and convince yourself of anything. And I see this quite a bit. It's actually very common in conspiracy theory circles, in ideological groups. It's always this kind of self-confirmation thing where they just ignore what doesn't fit and then they attach to what does fit. That's why I look toward not just like old media and predictive programming, but also the current stuff, the real-time stuff. So we can distinguish what we're doing from what could be potentially looked at as cherry picking or the sharpshooter fallacy, where you just have a wide range of things to grab from and you can just fit it however you want. So by focusing on real-time synchronizations between entertainment and news, we can show, no, there's some deliberate collaboration here. This is the biggest conspiracy. The biggest conspiracy is how all entertainment media has been co-opted by government and how there's only one government. Like, if we're going to really define it accurately, it makes more sense to think of it as a monolithic one world thing. It already is. So all of you who are preparing for the one world order, it's like, it's already been here. You're already a part of it. You were born in it. But the idea of tricking yourself into becoming paranoid, that was addressed by Robert Anton Wilson in one of his books. He had this axiom. He said, what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. And he said, just as an exercise, tell yourself that you are being spied upon by the government. Just like as a thought experiment. Entertain the idea, okay, the government's watching me. And then as you go out about your day, take note of anything that might reinforce that belief. So if you go out that day and you happen to see somebody working on a telephone line, you could say, okay, that's probably a Fed or a CIA. It's some kind of agent, and they're tapping my lines. Somebody calls you, you see somebody at a store, now it's a little more ominous. Like, oh, was this person sent here to meet me? That's how delusions work. And delusions are the result of not critically examining every premise that you've accepted. And that's why I say that suspension of judgment is so important, because if you accept a faulty premise, you can lead yourself down all kinds of bad rabbit trails. This is where it's at. It says, I'm about to create some content, targeted individual stuff, but I think you'll love my media breakdowns. You're motivating a lot of people. Awesome. I look forward to it. And make sure you share your links. Our objective here is not to remain an isolated raft. And by raft, we're talking about how when penguins gather atop the water, they form a raft. And here we are afloat atop the sea of irrelevance, and everyone else is submerged. They're not buoyant. They're drowning in the dis, and malinformation deluge, and they don't have a coherent view. They can't, not from within it. You have to actually see it as a model, as a complete closed system, a worldview, a fictional universe. The MSM is a fictional universe, and alt media is actually part of that. It's a subset, which is it's even worse than mainstream. Alternative news, it's far worse than mainstream. It's like do-it-yourself brainwashing. They don't believe it when they see it on the screen, but they'll believe it if they find it scattered about like breadcrumbs and they put it together themselves. But that lack of critical thinking is what I'm addressing here. The notion here that the thinker thinks something and the prover proves it, this cognitive bias thing, that's kind of what I'm addressing here. Because the basic premise is if it's on the screen, it's real. It's real until proven fake. And this is a big problem. And you fix it not by becoming better at analyzing AI-generated content, because that's just going to be impossible very soon if it isn't already, but rather approaching media with the skeptical suspension of judgment and being open to things being faked. You have to realize how dupable you are and how much we've been lied to. Most people are very naive in how they process information. They're passive, as opposed to our active consumption of media or active media analysis. As far as pausing rather than just automatically believing, which is what we kind of term here as mind aids. And the government gives you mind aids from the time you're very young. And then the consensus is always there to make you feel bad or outgroup you if you don't agree with it. AK Parrish said, if I wanted to send you some artwork, how would we arrange that? Just send me an email or message me, DM me in any of these accounts, and I'll put my email address in the chat here for you. And I'll send you an address. I will likely start receiving stuff here at the office very soon. I'll have my address posted in case I am targeted. My stalkers can find me. Lean Dion says, how very moral of Sir Cucci being against our DACA, which exposes legitimate predators, lowlifes, and suspected feds. Yes, to our credit, Behind the Perv exposed a ring of, and this is just really weird. It doesn't sound believable if you've never come across this stuff before, but it sounds crazy. But the people who set up the Flat Earth conferences, you're thinking a fringe group, they're just kind of out there doing their own thing. No, the people who set it up were feds, cops, friends of mainstream media personalities like Jimmy Kimmel. And beneath them, their keynote speakers were mostly predators on parole who weren't really open about it. And that's one of the reasons we did the documentary. We're like, look, we invested in this one particular activist. He was a speaker at a conference, and at no point did he tell us that he was scraped off the bottom of some cell somewhere and put out on the streets as a representative of people who question the media. And so we didn't want that kind of representation, so we called him out. And all these people I mentioned, these feds and these individuals operated like a circle. They circled the wagons around him, and they got behind the perv. And I thought, that's really interesting. Why would they protect it? And I'm like, well, they protect their own. It's a club. So we exposed it, and for some reason, Johnny misses the point of that. Gondola Wish, Tim, have you ever analyzed any of the marks in Eyes Wide Shut? Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, another movie that comes out on the day, another Kubrick that comes out on the day of Kennedy dies. Because 11/22/63, Dr. Strangelove. And Dr. Strangelove is where conspiracies about fluoride in the water really got popularized. I think they were kind of popular. They were satirized. That was a big part of that story. So Kubrick's always had these connections to these like conspiracy themes, like Apollo 11, for example. Eyes Wide Shut comes out 7/16/99. John F. Kennedy Jr. Died that day, which I don't believe. Look, I don't believe Kennedy was killed on that day. Kubrick directed it. Kubrick shot him with a camera. I mean, it was a film. It was shot. It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. Now that's a fascinating rabbit trail. Who was Lee Harvey Oswald working for before 11/22? He was working for Riley's Coffee Company. And what happened when the press went over there to interview his coworkers? They weren't there because they all went to go work for NASA. I mean, this is just kind of paraphrasing, but basically the people that he was with went to go work for NASA and probably Boeing. And he, Oswald, thought he was also going to go there, as revealed by a letter he wrote to his girlfriend. But yet he ends up on a grassy knoll. So I'm thinking Kubrick did indeed direct Apollo 11, but he also directed the JFK assassination. And so Oswald was drafted into the PSYOPs department, which does stuff in space and on the ground. But as far as Eyes Wide Shut coming out on JFK Jr.'s birthday, that's very, death day, that's very suspect. I watched it again, and the last time I watched it, I was bored out of my mind, I have to say. And I think that a lot of people overanalyze Kubrick's films. I mean, I understand that he's one of the major metascriptors of the 20th century, and his influence is deep, but he's not the only one. And there are people who think Stanley Kubrick's the only one who's involved in this predictive programming business. And it's like, no, it's so widespread. It's actually systemic. It's structural. But the people who only focus on him tend to miss the big ones. And this is always strange to me. There's a couple of documentaries about The Shining that talk about Apollo 11, and they put out a new version of it. They said, oh, not only did Kubrick predict, or rather reveal that he did Apollo 11, but he was revealing hints about MK Ultra and how to make mind-controlled assassins. So they're really reaching with that one. But at no point do they address the predictive programming, which is all throughout The Shining for 9/11. Oh, the masks in Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah, I've seen these various masks, and I've not been able to attach them to anything specific, but I'm interested. I think one of them looked like John Kerry. And how do you do an orgy wearing... anyway, the whole thing, the movie was just... I'm sorry, it was unbelievable. Like I didn't think it was believable. It was kind of... I don't know. Maybe movies just weren't as good then. But the whole thing just seemed kind of ridiculous. As though like they're so... I'm saying is like these elite are so ashamed they're wearing masks. Like, I don't think so. I mean, look at this stuff coming out with the Diddy parties. Like, these people are shameless. If that's real. I mean, how many of you think the Diddy stuff is fake? Isn't he sharing a cell with Luigi and Sam Bankman and I think R. Kelly? And also, who's the other guy? The Prophet of Doom. So the Prophet of Doom, Frank James, who fired 33 bullets into the subway, R. Kelly are buddies, and they're in a cell with Sam Bankman. Diddy arrives, and now Luigi, all in the same block. Patricia said, I've seen Russian Vid's face on Skype years before he went full RV, and he's not Johnny Circucci, conspiracy alarmist. Yeah, someone messaged me today, and they said, after listening to Circucci, I don't think he's Russian Vids anymore. And I don't think he is either. I've talked to Russian Vids off live streams. It was on a Skype call. And no, he's just a very private individual. When I say he changed his name to Ukraine Vids in solidarity with Zelensky, I actually made that up. And RV Russian Vids is not Johnny. And he's also been accused of being somebody else. Who's that other guy? There was some other guy who has this really good animated intro. There's a few people. Like, as though it wouldn't be unheard of for somebody to have multiple identities and run different accounts. Like, for example, Donnie Darkened. Donnie Darkened was one of the main Twitter accounts pushing the idea that Donald Trump was the Antichrist and he was about to get a head wound. And he was stealing from everybody. He was using Chat GPT, which is very obvious. Very obvious. Well, this account got exposed as some MAGA guy. So it's some pro-Trump guy is also this anti-Trump guy. And he's both on Twitter, both big accounts, both raking in money. So it wouldn't be a shock if Russian Vids had a more polished public appearance and better graphics. Yeah, call for an uprising. So it's like, okay, so he's got call for an uprising, and then RB is like the dollar store version of a call for an uprising. But both of them make money. One of them's just more grassroots, I guess. Can tackle more fringe stuff. But yeah, that's the one. But I haven't really followed Russian Vids very much. He's pretty much an auto hoaxer, but not pure enough. I mean, what I mean by that is that it's not like a rigid methodology with him. I think he's kind of in the MSM plus territory. He probably believes in chemtrails, which I'm not really holding that against anyone. As long as you're honest about it and say, I believe in chemtrails. And you don't say, chemtrails are real. Trust me, bro. No, you can believe in gnomes and fairies and unicorns, but chemtrails, no, they don't exist. And if you're still believing in them, it means that you haven't actually gone through the process of examining all the various truth or orthodoxies that you passively accepted. That's why I make a distinction between passive and active media consumption. What premise have you accepted? And what holds people to chemtrails, I would say, is the appeal to motive fallacy, almost more than anything. An appeal to motive is the bad guys are so bad, why wouldn't they do this? Well, I'm sorry, that's not a argument. Diddy documentary on Netflix at the moment, The Making of a Bad Boy. He starred in the record label in Bad Boy in the 90s. His public fall is too scripted. Yeah, I thought so too. I think it seems too manufactured. And I also point out that these are all just, it's almost like Epstein all over again. It's anecdotal. These are ambiguous. Someone made a claim against Jay-Z recently, and this is all fodder for the QAnoners. I don't hear much about it now, but it was big before the election. And I think that might have been to rile up the people. And there's a lot of fan fiction. Like the QAnoners believe that, what's his name? Justin Bieber. That Justin Bieber is a victim and he's going to speak out. I mean, I don't know. But I'm not going to say I know. Or I'm not going to run with it as though it's true because we've been tricked before. And then I watched that movie Blink twice, and it seemed also too direct a reference. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, this is for the Ghost Show. The Commander Chud is a fucking nigger.
Okay, it's probably past your bedtime. Hope his parents didn't hear him. I didn't quite understand it all, though. Infinite Plane Radio.
Fuck nigger!
Okay, I wonder who this is. Is this Johnny Circucci's crowd? Yeah, that's 2 calls. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's the solution here? Thoughts on when QAnon said Alpha Kenny body? Look, QAnon gets their inspiration from their Q pipes, and nothing they've said has come true from day one. And they've recycled their Q drops so many times. We'll do one more call. Okay, say something smart.
Hey, do you ever have the masculine urge to...
Hello? Infinite Plane.
Hi there. I go by Santa on the internet, but this guy Ghost, who's in the U.S. Air Force, And back a few decades ago, it was found out that they were spraying Alberta with carcinogenics. The U.S. Air Force was. What's your thoughts on that?
Probably fake.
No. Like this is even in like the mainstream media and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't trust mainstream media.
Oh, that's fair. But there's I'm trying to remember the woman's name, but she filed these access to information requests in the States, and Albertans from Canada had done it as well, and it was found that they were spraying carcinogenics over Alberta to test what it would do to the population in Canada.
Well, let me ask you one question. Do you believe in climate change?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so you don't believe in climate change, but you believe in secret government spraying programs that do the same damn thing. It's partisan. The guy's right wing. He believes in climate change and government doing secret things, but he doesn't believe in the real climate change that the lefties believe in. It's like, okay. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Ghost. Hot dog, hot dog.
Now, is this some kind of inside joke? I'm not really sure what it is. Like, I guess it's an inside joke. Is anybody here laughing? What is this? It must be a meme that I missed. What? Hey, what's up, caller? Can you explain to me the meaning of this meme?
What meme?
Something about ghost.
Oh, about that. I think they're referring to kind of like a child porn ring in Texas. It's under kind of like the name Luther's Burger, and I think there's like this main like person running it. His name is like Ghost, so I think they're referring to him, I think.
Okay, well, they weren't clear on that, but anyway, thank you for the clarification. And what topic are you calling on?
Oh no, I was trying to tell you about that child porn ring that Ghost was having in Luther's Burger.
Okay, I'll look into it. Thank you for the call. Infinite Plane Radio.
I just wanted to say that
Okay. Got my troll spray out. It's not hard to discern these, but Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, I'm really sorry about how I called in earlier.
Are you the one that used the hard R?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. Thanks for apologizing.
Yeah.
Infinite Plane Radio.
Oh, yeah. You want to see my dick?
Okay. Was that an Alex Jones impersonation? This is unreal. Yami says, do you believe in unicorns? $4.99. No, I do not believe in unicorns. Infinite Plane Radio.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to let you know that Pipkin Pippa is still Ghost Sweet Little Girl.
Okay, now, what exactly are we hearing here? I mean, are we Infinite Plane Radio?
Get in the back.
Interesting. Okay, they're not even using burner numbers, though. Infinite Plane Radio.
Suck bud.
Okay. Infinite Plane Radio. Like, what kind of troll farm are you calling from? Are you Canadian? Infinite Plane Radio. Where are you calling from?
San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, now, are you on a military base? Is this some kind of a troll farm?
No, I just wanted to let you know that Ghost is on a massive kite.
Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, I just want you to know that the reason why you know this call is...
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Canada. You asked a complicated question there. I don't see why you got to be a faggot and hang up.
All right. Sounds like... No, I don't know who this is. Tim struck a nerve. It seems like 3 or 4 individuals. I'd say average, what, 75 Infinite Plane Radio. Okay, so I'm probably not going to be able to take calls anymore, but I'm kind of curious. This is probably Johnny. Look, if you listen to Johnny Circucci, this is his crowd. Hey, what's up, caller? Are you calling on behalf of Johnny Circucci?
Hello?
Hey, do you listen to Johnny Circucci?
No, dude, this is Jurassic.
Okay, finally a sensible caller. All right. Hey, what you caught was really good on the float. The 55-foot long float with Elphaba the Witch and Elvis how
Right.
they're both at the front of those floats. I was just watching your video earlier today, but anyway, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I just called in because I heard all the commotion, man. I was like, what the hell? Anyway.
Yeah, I made
what are you guys talking about?
Well,
What are you guys talking about?
you know, I was actually going to bring up the float. I have pictures of the live stream that you did. I actually clipped out the picture of the Wicked Witch and Elvis at the front of the float because I was going to connect it to something. Here we have it here. And I just got inundated with a lot of trolls, and I think it's because of this individual. His name is Johnny Cerrucci, who's sort of mad at us because I'm not really sure what we did. He thinks I'm a Jesuit, is what it is.
Well, I don't know what you are, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? As long as you're telling, some truth, we're good.
Yeah, I don't have time to be a Jesuit or anything. Okay, here we go. This is Elvis, and you got the BB King. You mentioned that the person who organized this Rose Parade had the name King, and then of course he's the king. He's at the front of this thing, and then the next image is the Wicked float. It says defying gravity. And see, defying gravity might be code. I think it might be code for defying God or something like that. I think there's a code here, but one thing that's clear is she's leaving the Emerald City, and this is how the episode or the first part of Wicked ends. She's leaving the Emerald City after she EMPs it. She blacks it out. So you got the Emerald City, which is Seattle, getting blacked out, EMP'd, Wicked Witch, at the front of the float, which, again, and then finally, the other part you brought up is that her birthday is Elvis's birthday. So what do we have here? But a very clear picture.
Right. So Elvis is known as the king. BB King is on the float with Elvis in the back. And the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade was Billie Jean King, who has the birthday of 11/22, which is JFK's birthday, death day. And what's important is that Seattle's in King County. That stupid Wicked float is the Emerald City on there. Seattle's the Emerald City, and everything's about Elvis in this, Washington State June 11th event, right? And the witch on the front of it, yes, had Elvis's birthday, and they were both on the front of the floats. And the reason I was really comparing that is because Elvis's head is Washington. It's the front of Washington State, basically. You know what I mean? It's the furthest west.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. That's right. Wicked Witch of the West. And then there was something else you brought up today, and I think it had to do with. That's right. What is the significance of the flags? Because Trump's birthday is Flag Day, and you said he's being inaugurated with the flags at half-mast, and this is not something that's been done since like Nixon or something.
Right. So they supposedly all the flags were supposed to be at half-mast. And then right after I did the video, they because I guess Trump was complaining so much, the Speaker Johnson said that he was going to during the inauguration, they're going to put the flag at full mast. So they're basically resurrecting the flag just for Trump, and then they're going to lower it again after. So, and then a few other places like Texas is going to lift it up, and that's interesting because that's where JFK was killed, right? So they're basically resurrecting over there too. But a few other places might be doing it. I'm not sure, but most places are going to be putting the flags at half-mast, which means death, mourning. They're in mourning, death, right? And so Trump is born on Flag Day. So during his inauguration, you have that connection. And then the last time this happened was in Nixon's second term. The only other time this has ever happened where the flag's at half-mast is during Nixon's second inauguration. And this is his second inauguration. And it was during Nixon's second inauguration. And who was it? It was Truman. And Trump was born during Truman's presidency. And Truman has the first four letters of Trump. Same thing, right? And he was the president when Trump was born.
Yes. Truman, the 33rd president. And I thought it was interesting that the nuke happens during Truman's administration, because I think we were put into the Truman Show with the advent of the atomic bomb as being this new superstition to control society. We were all put into this movie-driven reality. And I think the Truman Show and President Truman, I think there's a significance there because I think we're all Truman in that sense. But yeah, okay, so there's a reference, though, a precedent here.
And the buck stops here. He's the buck stops here president. And Trump is probably the one that's going to stop the buck and go into this digital dollar crap, whatever the hell. Who knows, you know?
Oh, interesting. Interesting. The buck stops here. I see that. Okay.
Yeah, and of course, Ohio's the Buckeye state. You know what I mean? Where Trump's going to get his head wound. And Ohio was playing on Rose Parade Day, and they won. Now Ohio's playing for the championship on Trump's inauguration day.
Now, for people who don't know, explain to them the significance of Ohio briefly, because you're basically suggesting here, based on your reading of this thing and all these reaffirming indications are always pointing to this, that the big event's going to happen in Ohio.
Yes, the August 4th Trump head wound. The big event for Washington State is the June 11th event, but for Trump's head wound is August 4th in Ohio. And Trump is the 47th president. Elvis has been dead for 47 years, which is connected to this Washington State event. But 47 is the key here. Elvis has been dead for 47 years. Trump is going to be the 47th president. Ohio equals 47 if you just add up the letters, OHIO. And also the 17 is the connection. Ohio's the 17th state. Everything connecting to Trump and JFK is the 17. Because Trump was born 17 years before JFK's head wound. Like I said, Ohio's the 17th state. The letter Q is the 17, and JFK's death burial place looks like a Q. And there's
it does.
17.
Now,
go ahead.
One thing about this Q thing, because I make kind of fun of the movement, but there is a lot there. Like, they're not just making it up, but I'm just saying it's misdirection. But there certainly are, they're given like a lot of breadcrumbs. It's just a controlled opposition movement.
Well, you know what they're doing? They're putting out some true information. Like, they'll talk about resurrections and stuff like that, because that's what's going to really happen. They're going to resurrect, Elvis and Trump, but, of course, it's a fake resurrection, both of them. But, one is going to be the resurrection of a name, which is Elvis, and the next one is going to be the resurrection of the actual Trump, but he's not actually going to die, but they're going to say he's, going to die.
Sure, exactly. Just like 7/13. And, I've looked back at that date, 7/13, and it is really integrated with the 11/3 date associated with Seattle. These events are all connected, and, people are like, for the most part, this is beyond man. This has to have some structure to it. My take on it, I happen to think that the power elite write our history decades in advance, and this allows them to have these foregone conclusions and make stuff lead to it. It almost looks like prophecy being fulfilled. But in your take, are we looking at real spiritual events happening, at least with regard to this Trump situation?
What was the word?
Like, do you think this is like? Because I'm talking about the stuff in the context of media fakery, but for people who don't get what you're saying with this Elvis connection, could you explain what you mean by this Antichrist and how or why?
Well, let me just say this: Elvis, he's the real Antichrist. See, this whole because Elvis's identical twin died at birth. That's why the Twin Towers fell. That's why Trump is here, because Trump is the replacement twin for Elvis's identical twin that was either sacrificed or supposedly died. But the point is that Trump is, it's like the Janus God, the God of two faces, the past and the present, one looking forward, one looking the other way, you know what I mean, whatever the hell. But it's the Janus God, and even January is named after Janus, and that's when Elvis was born, in January. But and of course Trump is born in June, which is the Gemini, which is the twin. So Elvis is the real Antichrist, and Trump is the Antichrist in the flesh. And what they're doing is they're mocking God, because when Jesus was walking the earth as God in the flesh, God was still in heaven, as the Father. So you have that's why you have, they have to have a God in heaven, God in the flesh, and that's what Trump is. That's why he's going to have the crucifixion and the resurrection. You know, he's being crucified. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, I heard you say that earlier. That's what I was hoping you would explain here, why you have this duality. And if you look at the predictive programming with Trump and how he's been characterized throughout media, I mean, this guy has got so much media coverage for just a real estate magnate. And it's like, how many times have they shown him as a twin? They're always showing this like twin symbolism around Trump. That's been one of the reoccurring themes with him. But when you see it all together, you're like, okay, this is concerted messaging. This isn't just a few things cherry picked, but they have been creating this perception of two Trumps. And there's been this for a long time, there's been contention that there's two different Donald Trumps, which, wouldn't shock me based on what I've seen in the pictures. It's hard to say, but the twin thing.
Yeah, I agree, actually, because he always does look different. You know, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's doubles or triples of him.
And do you remember when Alec Baldwin, who always dressed up like Trump, Alec Baldwin played Trump on SNL, and then he's involved in that shooting at the Rust movie set where he shoots the director by accident, Joel Souza, who happens to have Trump's birthday. So you have this Alec Baldwin, who was Trump deranged crazy, shooting somebody with Trump's birthday. And I was like, okay, this is messaging here. This is all messaging. It's actually leading towards this bigger story. And so
yeah. And let me just real quick go back to the you were talking about the flag. So they're having the flags at half mast, and of course we were talking about death. You know, it's meaning death and mourning. That the flag being at half mast for Jimmy Carter, which is the JC for Jesus Christ. But the Trump being born on Flag Day, that day is MLK Day, and MLK not only is connected to the Seattle event because the Seattle's in King County, and MLK is now named after that King County. That King County is now named after him. So, and MLK was killed in Memphis, Tennessee, where Elvis lived and died. So every single thing connects to this puzzle together, and MLK Day is the inauguration day. So they're telling you that he's going to be assassinated, but not on that day. They're just giving you the predictive programming that the flags are at half mast. Trump's born on Flag Day. You have MLK Day, meaning assassination, because he was assassinated, and the fact that it's Memphis, Tennessee, he was killed at, which is the Elvis connection, because Elvis lived and died there, and then from oh man, what was it? From Trump's birthday. Hold on, darn it.
Now let me bring this up. When Trump was arrested on 4/4/2023, that was the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination. And this was during Holy Week, where Trump had been compared to Jesus, even on SNL. So they were making all these Trump-Jesus connections. Marjorie Taylor Greene compared him to Jesus. The MAGA were all basically treating Donald Trump like a martyr. And then on the anniversary of MLK's assassination, he has to go to jail. 4/4/2023,
Right.
Not a coincidence.
Yeah, here's the connection with the numbers. Watch. So because Trump's going to be the 47th president. When Trump turned 47, before I say that, Obama was 47 years old when he became president. Okay, and Obama's born on August 4th, and so Trump, the 47th, going to be the 47th president, is going to get his head wound on August 4th. Obama became president at the age of 47. When Trump turned 47 years old in 1993 on his birthday, from 6/14/1993, the day he turned 47, to the day he gets inaugurated, the amount of days is 11544. 11544. That is MLK's birthday and his death date. MLK's born 115 and he died on 4/4.
This is all deep code. It's all consistent, though. It's internally consistent. That's why I think this is so intriguing. Like the King stuff you pointed out on this float. This King stuff, not coincidental. I mean, my channel, we tend to focus a lot on predictive programming and stuff we see in the movies and maybe what the politicians are saying. But overall, though, you're finding stuff in the regular news that I would miss. And this float thing is rather intriguing, and it's very internally consistent. Even the length of the boats, the 55, the floats.
Yeah. Satan equals 55, and the wicked float, because the wicked is telling you it's bad. Satan is bad. Satan equals 55, and the float is 55 feet long and 18 feet high. Who cares? I know Elvis was born on 1/8, but the point that it's 55 feet long. The parade route is 5.5 miles, they say, that it goes around. So that's another 555. But what's important is the fact that Elvis was in Pasadena because he was the float, the Rose Parade, and the same time you have the Wicked float, which is the Seattle Emerald City connection for the Wicked float. And then what happened on Elvis's birthday was the big news was the fire had started the day before Elvis's birthday on 1/7, but Elvis's birthday was 1/8. The big news started on 1/8, where all the places were being burned on Elvis's birthday.
Interesting. And then, okay. Go ahead.
It was in Pasadena, and it was near Pasadena, near the Rose Parade. That's the point. That Eaton fire, that was called Eaton, and the other one is Pacific Palisades, which is the PP, which I've explained before is the Antichrist reference, but I'm not going to get into it here.
Well,
go ahead.
To mention this one, the Wicked Witch, the actress that portrays. So you have Elvis's birthday. The floats are kind of mirrors of each other, length, size, and her position. But in addition to the Elvis birthday, the name Elphaba, the EL, is a key component to a lot of the symbolism. So that is also consistent. And the movie was first premiered on 11/3, which has been consistently associated with Seattle and the nuke scenario. That's why it's notable that at the end of the movie, she EMPs the Emerald City, and Seattle is the Emerald City. So there's pretty straightforward here, from my view, that this is all kind of reiterating everything else that you've been noting this entire time.
So when you say EMP, what exactly do you see on the screen at that point? Can you explain it that way? I can explain it to my viewers. That when the witch leaves or gets out of there or something, what happens?
Yeah, so she has her confrontation with the Wizard of Oz, and she flies on her broom. She flies out of the Emerald City and turns around and creates this big spectacle in the sky around her, I think it's like I don't remember the color, but I think it was like lightning and some kind of like electric pulse, and she shuts down the lights in the Emerald City, and then the movie abruptly ends. And
that's it. It ends.
It ends on that note. It ends when Emerald City goes dark, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Okay, now that's a big deal. See, the fact that it just goes dark, yeah.
And the next one comes out next year, so they specifically ended the movie on that cliffhanger with the blackness, the darkness, the period of silence, etc.
And it's going to be at the Oscars. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be at the Oscars, this Wicked crap.
Yes, absolutely. And I bet there's a lot I missed in it. I watch these things, I scan them for predictive programming stuff, and like there's this flying monkey sequence, which I think might have been perhaps foreshadowing the drones, for example. But I'm still looking into it, but I think the drone connection and the EMP, the nuke, it's all somewhat, I think, tied into the Wizard of Oz story, or the Wicked story.
Yeah, man, there was something else, man. Man, if you just can you bring up another topic?
Yes. In the chat, Conspiracy Alarmist says something about Elvis being born on 1/8. And he says, Miles Mathis, who's a great researcher, always points out that aces and eights are the conspiratorial calling cards, kind of like the 33s. I haven't heard of that, aces and eights, but it wouldn't surprise me. But the birthdays are such a huge clue, and they're very consistent. Like I was actually talking to someone about this, John Hinckley, and how this was so connected with the Trump shooter through movies, through Robert De Niro's character, but how the shooter of Reagan's birthday was JFK's birthday. May 29th. Which is
the backwards date of August 4th, which is the reverse date of August 4th.
Right. And is it what, the 200 what day of the year is it?
216. 529 is the 149th day, which is JFK's birthday, the 149th day of the year, which is 529. Its reverse date would be the 216th date, because that's how many days are left in the year, 216 days. So the 216th day of the year is August 4th.
Okay, right. So it's 149th day?
149th day, and the 216th day would be its reverse day.
And then that number 149 is the 35th prime, which I think ties into the president, JFK being the 35th president.
Right, Elvis being born in the 35th year, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's something else too, because Trump's hat has the 4547 on it, and someone said the number 4,547 is the 616th prime number, and 616 it's another Antichrist number, so that's kind of interesting.
Yep, exactly. And man, there's just like I said, there's just so much to this puzzle, you know. But you know, I hate giving away such perfect, I mean, such important information as this, but I told you Satan is 55, okay? The name Satan equals 55. You just add it up to what it is in the alphabet. S being the 19th letter, A being the first, T being the 20th, A being the first, N being the 14th letter of the alphabet. It's just equals 55. Now, Satan equals 55, so what does Satan need? What is the number that Satan needs? Do you know it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. 611.
What is the number?
611 to...
No, but what's it need? I know, but what's the number that it needs? It's 666.
Oh, yeah, okay, to get to that.
Yeah, so how would Satan get to 666? He would need 611, because 611 plus 55, which is Satan, equals 666. You know?
Well, yeah, this is interesting. It's because spelling, you know, we're talking about when you get into how the occultists operate and how they do their spellcraft, it's a form of word magic and symbolism, but the numbers play as much a role as the words and their numerical equivalents. So they're spelling it out with numbers. They're spelling it out mathematically, and they're spelling it out with the words and the codes and the symbols, and it all reiterates itself. Very intriguing.
And at the parade, just real quick, and I told you that 6/11 and August 4th is my two prediction dates, and in between 6/11 and August 4th, when you add the dates, 55 days. So it's a perfect puzzle, okay? It's perfect. You can't, you know, like I said, it's all supernatural that. But you know what happened with the float? You also had the Louisiana float at the Rose Parade with a crown on it. And Louisiana is where the Super Bowl is going to be, and it's the 18th state, which is 1/8 again. And Elvis is born on 1/8, and of course 18 is also the 6 plus 6 plus 6, just like August 4th is the 6 times 6 times 6 is 216 day of the year. But the Louisiana had the crown on it, the alligator, which is a beast out of the sea.
Okay.
So there's a connection with that, and the reason that that's connected is because when Elvis turned Satan, which is 55, the year he turned 55 years old, at the Super Bowl, which was in Louisiana, the year Elvis turned 55, the Super Bowl score was 55-10, which equals Satan. Satan equals 55-10, because 5 plus 5 is 10. So the year that Elvis turned 55, on that year, the Super Bowl score was 55-10, which is Satan.
Well, let me add to this then, because when Trump was arrested on 4/4, which was the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination, that was also the 44th birthday of Heath Ledger, Joker. And Joker 2 was being filmed outside at the same time Trump was inside. And people thought the crowd was there for Trump, but they were there for the Joker. And the new Joker is Joaquin Phoenix. So you have the Phoenix, which means death, resurrection. You have the birth date of the dead Joker. And this is the date that Trump is on trial, and it's the 55th. At this same time, there was a movie being filmed where Jamie Foxx seemed to die on set, and they said he miraculously was resurrected. And then he shows up in a movie called They Cloned Tyrone, where they die and they come back. And people even thought that he had died and he had been cloned, and they addressed that rumor before the clone movie came out. But he was 55 at the time. And then you had the killing of this Tyree Nichols earlier in the year, same year, 2023. And when Tyree Nichols was killed, there was a protest that shut down I-55. And MLK Jr.'s daughter shows up at the protest. And then they go and they have the eulogy with Al Sharpton at Mason Temple, where MLK gave his final sermon. So you had MLK all over this beating that was compared to the beating of Rodney King. So you had Rodney King, Martin Luther King's daughter. They shut down 55. And then you had the Jamie Foxx, the 55-year-old. All kinds of 55s leading up to the date where Trump is in court. And again, it was Heath Ledger's 44th birthday, which you said 44 is the kill number. And it's the Joker who's going to do the killing. The Joker is the assassin.
Yeah, those are great connections. And when was Heath Ledger born? 4/4?
Yep, 4-4.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's incredible. And like I said, it's all man. This MLK is connected so big to this puzzle, just like JFK. These two assassinations. Well, RFK also is connected, but I'm not gonna. You need to watch my videos for that. But the whole thing with RFK, JFK, and MLK was all, and that's why they have those three initials. You know what I mean? The same stupid initials. Notice it. You know.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see
You
that.
know, three initials, three. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And man, anyway, man, I have so much. We could go on all day with the connections, man. But just watch my videos. You know, watch my live streams, and you'll understand it. And to anyone who's not, fully grasping it right now, but yeah, man, I appreciate your connections, man. Like I said, we don't agree on everything, just like you don't agree with me on everything, But we gotta try and get the word out, even if we don't agree on everything.
Yeah, the truth is the truth, and if we elucidate it enough, we'll eventually all be on the same sheet. And yeah, I appreciate your content, and I do recommend people watch, because I only scratch the surface. I listened to you for like 20 minutes talking about the float, and I'm like, well, okay, every aspect of this is internally consistent in its symbolism. So appreciate the information, and have a great evening.
Can you do me a favor, put that link to that float video?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can. Thanks, man.
All right, have a great evening. It's nice to have a break from the troll onslaught. Now, I don't know. It's probably just a coincidence that we have a detractor, someone who is probably mad at us because of his own misconceptions, and the trolls. Like, I'm not saying he sent the trolls, but I don't know. And what kind of people try to shut down a channel and do so by breaking the terms of service like that? It just seems kind of a low blow. Like, why don't you call in and debate? But anyway, let's see here. Ola A, appreciate the support. Eucalyptus, appreciate the tip. Unbelievable. Sleepy Random says, I sent you a message on X to see who raided you. Was that a raid? Funny. We used to do raids. We'd have 400 live in our chat, and yeah, we're the reason why the ISS videos started blocking chats, and SpaceX, and I think we put a lot of media on alert, because what you could do is you could hijack at that time when we started. You were able to hijack entire chat rooms. Okay, let's see here. I'm just going through my Twitter feed to see who is behind the chat raid. Which account did you send it to? If you could let me know. I have multiple accounts, but the main one I use is IPS Think Tank, and then I have, okay, here you are, Insider. Okay, I got your message here. A link to who raided you. Okay, Ghost Politics on Kick. Okay, it's a Kick stream. Okay, I gotcha. I think I have a Kick account. We might even be on that platform. But anyway, so what do? They use bad words and interrupt other channels by calling in. I mean, who was offended by that? Whose heart rate went up? Did anybody clutch their pearls? Mount Crushmore Bear says, what's up, long time with you? Good. We've had a lot of first-time callers who've been like listeners for 5-6 years. Remember your 10 commandments, no sacred cows. Fun days back then. Glad to see you back. What's going on in Antarctica? Well, what's going on in Antarctica? No ice wall, but apparently a large LED screen. Now, our troll raids were done to create content. You could get a reaction out of somebody and then use that. So hopefully they got what they wanted. 6+11 orange diamonds on that Elvis picture. Oh yeah, I do have a link to Jurassic's video. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, is this the Canadian who's mad about me not believing in his... Yeah, it is.
Hey,
So this guy's mad because I don't believe in his chemtrail theory. And he wants to call and school me on it. And it's like, dude, I don't care. You're not wearing a mask. If you're not wearing a mask, I could care less. Okay, so Drastic Liars' channel and the video he referenced has been posted below. Yeah, I don't believe in chemtrails. And if I don't believe in chemtrails, and that makes you want to call into my live stream and shout obscenities, then what does that say about you and your priorities? Like, you should be calling the airlines. You should be calling the National Guard. Say, hey, we need air defense artillery out here. Ivory Henriksen says IPS is the reason you disabled. Yeah, I think we had a lot to do with that. Hey, okay, this is not even funny. I mean, really, you should just call in and let us pick your brain for a minute. Why don't you call back with the intention of using words and not volume, just words, and let's talk. Because you sound upset. You sound triggered. Yeah, I think we broke the thumbs down. I think we're the reason why they started doing members-only chats. They saw that there was an opportunity there to create subscriptions, etc. I mean, we kind of pioneered this stuff by implementing the wrench policy. And the wrenches are essentially everybody here who's vetted gets to be a mod. And that's so we can get rid of people who are just here to disrupt. Not that these callers are very disruptive. Like I said, like, they're not even interesting enough. Say something interesting or I'm going to have to turn off my phones.
You know, whenever, you and your best...
I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like, I don't know if he's got a shtick. Is he trying to do a setup and then tell a joke, the punchline? What's up, Flat Earth Revolution? Any thoughts on Antarctica? All I'm saying is I stand by the critics and the skeptics. Right now it's Stitchgate. Stitchgate has replaced Vapegate, but Vapegate is still kind of not explained to my satisfaction. They almost over-explained it. And I also have a question. I have some, I don't know. I think there's some inconsistencies in Jaren's reaction. Because he's the one who recorded the space station. Now, I believe he faked it, but let's just pretend it's real. So he recorded the space station. He never adjusted his model based on that observation. Hey, what's up, caller? Now, I really do not know how to categorize this. I mean, I can block these callers. It's just a click. It's not a big deal. I mean, I don't know. I mean, do they get, like, are their viewers entertained is what I'm wondering. Like, their chat room on Kick, are they sitting around laughing and be like, oh, he got through? It's like prank calling, really? Like, that's not even a good troll tactic. I mean, what are you trying to do? Like, if I'm prank calling somebody, the purpose is to lead them into a conversation and then rug pull them. This is kind of like brute force hacking. Nothing slick about it. Rig5 says, footage looks legit to me. I don't know where Antarctica is, though. Right, it could be a hybrid of real and fake. Hey, one more try, and then I'm going to turn off the phones. I don't know. I'm not impressed. Not impressed at all. Fail. Deprogram says, I think they're inviting us to their house. I don't need a call screener. This is a result of somebody's hurt feelings. There'd be Sloppy Johnny, who is terrible at research and managed to go an entire 5 minutes talking about this channel and me without getting a single thing correct. Didn't even do any basic research. When you do opposition research, you're supposed to know about the person you're trying to take down or character assassin. And if I wanted to character assassin this guy, I could. But I don't have a reason to. It's almost like punching down. We have more important targets. 777 says schizophrenia. I don't know. To be honest, I kind of think this is more like a Kick thing. It's like 5 or 6 people, and they're all kind of like, hey, there's this number, call in and scream like a moron. There is no deal with Johnny. Johnny was a guy I did a podcast with once. We talked on the phone once, and he was very nice. We didn't have any areas of major disagreement, but then the next day he uploaded a video, and he said that he was mad at me and that nobody should ever talk to me. So I was like, whatever. Not really relevant. Like I said, he's not. I don't know why I'm on his radar. He's not on mine. I'll let the next guy go through if he can lower his voice. But no, we don't have enough overlap because he's the whole Jesuit club, the Jesuit chasers. They are firmly enmeshed within alternative media. They're not skeptics. They don't know about media fakery. They believe in fact, this guy we're speaking of claims to be vax damaged. I mean, so they're just orthodox truthers, not interesting, not insightful, not on my radar. Mount Crushmore Bears, is this the final conclusion? They faked Antarctica? The best case that can be made, if you're going to suggest that they faked it, is that they went somewhere and they faked it in a big studio, but there's a lot of explaining to do because you have a lot of other footage. So it's a huge claim. And I'm just like, let them do their best. Let the skeptics do their best. And then at the end of this, because it's not over yet, they haven't gone through everything. Every gate, vape gate, it's been dealt with, or so they say. Stitchgate, is it being dealt with? Eventually the truth will surface. There's no reason to attack the people who are questioning, especially not today. And your basis for believing it was real shouldn't be, well, I just trust McToon so much, or I trust Jaron so much. That should not be the starting point. I would have accepted it at face value if I wasn't certain that Jaronism had already faked ISS transits. Sleepy Rana says ghost politics is a CIA psyop. Well, there are many federal informants, confidential informants. The FBI pays people to go into Discord servers. And I notice they stay on Discord. But we don't get trolls in Gilded. It's the strangest thing. And the types of trolls you get in Discord are coming from some troll farm. They get all of their content from the same places. Their opinions are lockstep. But yeah, as far as the person who's calling us, I don't know if maybe it's not personal. It just wasn't good. I would have appreciated it if it had been even slightly entertaining. But they were terrible at it. Okay, let's see here. Now, I might have to delete this video, to be honest. I'm not sure. I mean, it'll show up in the archives, but I'll have to go through and delete the calls. Thank you very much, Ted Stryker. My Third Eye, Rafal, Farfig Newton have all received the Blue Wrench Lodge membership. And I am uploading videos in the mornings. This morning, it kind of crashed on us. Baja Pickleball, Polly, thank you for joining. Jay Nelson, all new holders of the Blue Wrench. Mossman USA, Chris Johnstone, and Harks have also received a membership gift. Again, these are gifted memberships, courtesy of Ted Stryker 2112. And this means for the next month, if I upload content that goes to members first, you'll be getting a notification. Okay, anyway, Mount Crushmore, not attacking. Tell me about Jaron faking the ISS transit. Okay, here's what I would say. I happen to think that the shape of the world debate has always been a false debate, an either-or fallacy. It's this model or this model. And I don't think we have enough information to say that we have a model if outer space has been falsified. If the moon landing's fake, if satellites are fake, if orbit's fake, if there's nothing in space, if space travel has been falsified, as it has, just looking at the fake ISS and looking at the movie magic and the special effects. And this is never a topic that is touched by the debate, flat versus round. They don't talk about movie effects, special effects, CGI. And that's the only thing we should be talking about. So if we take into account that we don't know what space is, you can't tell me the globe is a perfect model yet. Similarly, you don't have enough information to say, well, that's wrong, let's go with the flat earth model. So this model versus model focus has always been fallacious. But from the beginning, I find it very questionable that one of the ways that you could verify the existence of low Earth orbit from the ground is the ISS. So as long as there's a space station there, well, it's safe to assume the Earth is a ball, 25K circumference, and that low Earth orbit is indeed a thing. And we regularly put things there. Because the only way for the light in the sky to reach those transit points every 93 minutes. It goes around the Earth. So in order for person A here and person B in this other country to see this thing on the same circuit, it has to be going that speed. And there are no craft that can go 17,000 miles per hour. The fastest thing is like 5,000 maybe within the atmosphere. So the only way that something the shape, the unaerodynamic shape of the ISS could go that fast would be in the frictionless environment of outer space. Now, I don't believe in the ISS. I've never seen it. I've looked. There are people who say that you can just go out there and see it with the app, which is just not true. All the people who've said this to me have come back empty-handed. They can't show me anything. However, there are people who record ISS transits. They put these things on YouTube. The problem with ISS transits is we're talking about when it crosses the sun. Well, if it's crossing the sun, you can't see it. You have to rely on your solar filter, and you see it after the fact, which means that you're not an eyewitness. And I'm saying I don't believe in it until I have eyewitness testimony. And that's not an eyewitness. Then you have those who say, well, here it is crossing in front of the moon. Well, you can't see it at night because it's not reflecting the sun. The only way they can see it is its silhouette in front of the moon. So the solar and lunar transits, in my opinion, are necessarily fake, and they use those because you don't have to worry about eyewitnesses not seeing it. It's like you could fake it easier. In other words, with the ISS transits, there's no eyewitnesses, and it's all going through the person's video editor. You don't know. Insert shot. You just can't verify it. You can't trust it. So I've been saying since Jaron faked these ISS transits, I said the only ones I'll accept is if you can record it with your iPhone. Not through a telescope, just record it with your phone. And you have to be in the shot. Do a selfie with the light in the sky going over your head, because it's supposedly brighter than Venus. But I don't see anybody doing a video selfie with the light going over their head like on time. Because if you watch Jaron's transit, he counts down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it is. It's precise. It would have to be. But you don't have anybody precisely saying, hey, the space station's going to come over our head in 10 minutes. Let's do a selfie with the space station behind us. You never see that. So the only ones you see are the ones through the solar filter or silhouetted against the moon with no eyewitnesses. Those do not count. So he did that. And I'm like, okay, he's got to be collaborating, because the only way that you would have the same ISS shape that the one that NASA produces is that you're getting the same file, using the same magic trick. So I at that point, I'm like, this guy's obviously compromised, working for NASA. I'm not saying he's a shape trader. Like maybe he never was a believer, but for whatever reason, he faked ISS transits. Well, then you follow this up with Netflix. Now, I don't know if you can blame people for getting involved in Netflix, but Netflix was used as a hit piece. So these are two blows against the topic. But right after the Netflix thing is when the hard censorship started being implemented against the flat earth topic on YouTube specifically. And now this. So it just seems like, okay, I'm sorry, but the ISS thing, that I would have to say is very questionable. I don't believe that. Now, as far as the 24-hour Antarctic sun, I don't have any specific reason to dispute it. I mean, I haven't seen it. Am I totally reliant on my own observations for everything? No. That's not how reality works. You don't have to have firsthand evidence of everything. But at this point, I'm still suspending judgment. I feel like I have a right to. I think it's rational to. As in, I'm not going to believe anything from questionable sources, mainstream media or alt media, and I would consider the establishment-friendly flat Earth community to be alt media. All these individuals. I mean, we mentioned the Behind the Perv earlier, and it is notable that many of the people who are at the top level of this organizing of this community of conspiracy theorists just happen to have very shady connections. But as far as what they did in Antarctica, could they have faked it? It's an interesting question. I always like to ask, because before this conversation started, nobody was talking about the Mandalorian and these LED screen stages where it's a virtual set. And I had been talking about these because I said, this is how they're going to fake the moon base. This is how they're going to fake the Mars base. They're going to have total surround screens It's better than green screen. So green screen isn't a thing anymore. The only place they use it is on the space station, which is just outdated. The space station special effects haven't advanced since like 2016. They're pretty bad. You know what's interesting is the special effects guru, Douglas Trumbull, the guy who did 2001 Space Odyssey, and he only recently passed, I think. He was remarking on how the special effects he did for 2001 A Space Odyssey aged better than more recent special effects that rely heavily on computer-generated effects. And he said it's because the props, the miniatures, the organic things, they just look real at a very visceral level because they are real. Whereas what you're seeing with the space station with AVR and green screen where they're just pretending, yeah, it doesn't look as real. And think about this too. If you're working in a green screen environment, you're pretending to see what's in front of you. So you're acting, you're LARPing. When you have the LED studio, you actually see the stuff. And here's another reason why I question it. And you can think this is petty, but every single person that I saw at the final experiment was like, wow, those mountains are 5 miles away, but they look so close that I could touch them. And I'm like, that reminds me of Elon Musk when he's like talking about the car in space and he says, it must be real because it looks so fake. And then I see these flat earthers in Antarctica and like, those mountains must be far because they look so close. Like, it was just a paradox to me. Like, what would make you say that a glacier 5 miles away looks like you could touch it? Maybe if you're looking at something on a screen 100 feet away. I mean, I don't know. Now, again, I'm not saying they faked it. I'm not even certain that it's fakeable. It's almost too big. I mean, you're talking about the like interior virtual sets. The biggest one I've seen, it was like a hangar, and I think they could fit a 737 inside. That was the biggest one I've seen, which is pretty big. But other things that you can't quite answer, but I mean, I've seen them address this stuff. Like one of the guys who went there said, well, the sun wouldn't create shadows. Well, and he put up his computer screen with the sun on it and showed that it wasn't creating shadows. Well, nobody said that's how the shadows are being created. You know, what's happening on the screen is one thing, but if I was engineering something like this, well, first of all, these studios don't have ceilings. So you could have some kind of a lighting situation, I would imagine. Mount Crushmore Bear says, I suppose we all should try to reproduce the filming of the ISS transit. We've already done this. We've already done it. And here's what I've concluded, that the only way to verify for sure that it's up there is that we need 2 witnesses who have to be 20, 30 to 50 miles apart or further. And the reason why is that if you and I are 50 miles apart and we're looking at the same light in the sky, if it is indeed 185 miles above our head, we will both see it if we're this far apart. If we're like, I did this with a friend who was in Denver and I'm in Albuquerque. And we're both looking for the ISS. And she's like, yeah, I saw it. And I'm like, well, I didn't. And we're both looking at the same thing. So in all likelihood, she saw an airplane. But if it was a space station, it would have been high enough for me to have seen it too. So you can kind of triangulate with 2 witnesses. And we have not yet had 2 witnesses recording the same light, which should be easy to do. Nor do we have anybody recording it with like a selfie video. Nobody's been able to do it. And a lot of people have volunteered. They've tried. We've had people recording video. But I got so many videos of airplanes that I had to stop and I had to say, we need 2 witnesses. It's just like with the drone psyop. Like last month, drones were being sighted everywhere. Every single one of the major drone sightings that went viral turned out to be an airplane. Every single one. None of them were unexplainable. Not one. And how did they do this? And this is what I was saying that we need to do. We need a time, date, location, and direction that you're facing. And then we can cross-reference it with one of these flight tracking sites. Mount Crushmore says, I know it's not the ISS. No, that's where we need to stop, though. We're not starting with it's there, we don't know what it is. Because I'm not going off the base assumption there's a light in the sky. We're not debating what the light in the sky is. We're debating, is there a light in the sky? And this is a clever bit of, it's a Jedi mind trick. They get you to believe there's something there, and we're just debating what it is. No, you can't even give them that. The only basis people have for believing there's something there is somebody told them they saw something there. and it's never direct. Like, you haven't seen it. And we have to be, pretty honest about this. We have to be honest that, no, none of us have seen the ISS. And you're welcome to call in if you think you have. But if you can't tell me the date, time, location, longitude, latitude, direction you're facing, I don't want to hear it. Because that's why we had a drone panic. There was no specificity with any of the sightings. And any specificity would tell us, oh, this was a drone. Or we could rule it out. And again, every single one of these drone sightings was an airplane. So how do you suddenly trust people when they say, I saw a light in the sky, it might be the ISS? Like, no, I don't trust you. I need 2 witnesses, sufficient distances apart. I need to rule out an airplane. You can't just record a light in the sky and claim it's a spaceship. So no, we don't even have evidence to start with it's up there or something is up there. No, there isn't anything up there. And one other point to add to this, there is nothing that can go that fast. Sorry. There's just no craft that can go 17,000 miles per hour within Earth's atmosphere. So if there is something there, then it would necessarily have to be in outer space. Because, again, nothing within our atmosphere can go more than, I think the record is like maybe 5,000 miles per hour. And it wasn't even that long. It wasn't a manned craft going for 20 years straight on a 93-mile circuit orbit. Okay, let's see here. I'm going through your comments. What's up, Pippi Langstroth? Good to see you. Yeah, so anyway, the ISS doesn't exist. And the best arguments people have is, a lot of people saw it. That's not an argument. A lot of people saw drones. That's why I'm so glad the drone thing happened. Because I saw the exact same problem that I was encountering with eyewitnesses. Eyewitnesses who aren't being specific, and then they're just flooding the zone. So then someone's citing a lot of vague reports. I mean, look at ufology. I would categorize these ISS sightings as ufology at this point. These are just unidentified flying objects. And I also dislike the ambiguity. Like, I might have seen an airplane, or it might have been the space station. Nobody can say affirmatively that is a spaceship. It's always like, well, it might be an airplane. I don't know. No, you can't say that, because in order to meet the specific time and place, right time, right place, for you to see it according to the website tracker, it has to be going that speed. There's just no other way. And when have airplanes ever run on time? If you fly at all. The idea that a plane could simulate the space station and make it on time at every transit point, no, that's ridiculous. And if you look at the transits, like look at Jaren's, we mentioned it, it was a countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was perfectly on time. Real News Matter says, the drone stuff is entirely fake news and paranoia. I live in the Jersey area. Yeah, and there were people in New Jersey who were claiming that they were getting radiation sickness because of it. That they're puking, they're nauseous, they're having all kinds of symptoms because they heard on Joe Rogan that maybe the drones were hunting for a nuclear weapon that had been lost. Joe Santos says, there's a new game on Game Pass called Route 96 that right away asks you, what will you do if the government turns on you? Mount Crushmore says, I agree with you totally. Do you think they're compromised, in your opinion, regarding Antarctica 24-hour sun? I find the whole batch of them to be untrustworthy. And I don't know why McToon is so mad. Like, I mean, if I was a science teacher, I wouldn't chastise people for their wrong answers. I would try to get them to unpack their conclusions and determine if they arrived at it through a logical process. And all I see them do is attacking people. And ad hominem, like, I understand name calling. Name calling sometimes is necessary. Like, for example, Sloppy Johnny. But that's not an argument against what he says. You know, it's not an ad hominem. These guys are using ad hominem. Oh, you guys are this, therefore your answers are wrong. Or there's something fundamentally wrong with you. No, you can't say that people are wrong for not trusting media. You're wrong for trusting media. And I would also say that their anger is just an appeal to emotion. It's like crisis actors. You guys might as well cry. Like Jaren, McToon, and others, you might as well just shed tears and say it's so sad for us that the flatties won't convert. They're not going to kneel before the ball with us. Like, you might as well just cry. If you're going to get mad and name call and be angry, it's just emotions are emotions. Why do you have to bring that into this? Why can't you be dispassionate and scientific? And isn't that one of the prerequisites? Like if you're going to be a scientist and you can do science, shouldn't you be above that kind of stuff? Now, as far as the compromise thing goes, I'm not going to say that just because all these people have mugshots or something, that therefore they're not trustworthy. But we have seen a pattern within Trutherville where people are caught doing bad things and they work out some deal with the state. Next thing you know, they got a big YouTube channel and they're pushing conspiracy theories to people. It happens all the time. And I don't think it's a coincidence. In fact, one prominent Flat Earth community member once told me on the phone, and this was someone who was associated with a lot of these sex offender types. He told me, he said that he did intelligence work for the Denver Police Department. And I thought, that's interesting. So you're pretending to be this conspiracy guy. You're fighting the New World Order, but you do intel for the Denver police. And you're backing all these content creators who are big in the community of flat earthers who also have these really dark pasts. I mean, one of them isn't one of them again in jail for, I think he was Breaking Bad in Denver. Again, I don't want to say names because I'm not attached to these people. However, some of the names should be mentioned. Like I said, Philip Stallings, you can look it up. And it's not guilt by association. But if you're making documentaries with somebody who on the side is filming a bunch of illegal content, there's something wrong with you. Like you don't have discernment or you're part of it. Like I mean, I know guilt by association shouldn't be a thing, but there are some instances where you either have no discernment and you're a danger to yourself and your family, or you're part of it, you're complicit. And he never came out, none of the people around these individuals ever came out and distanced themselves from it. Like if it turns out that my best friend is a cannibal, I'm going to say I didn't know. I never ate at his house. I'm not going to pretend I didn't know the person and never talk about it. I'm going to distance myself. And I didn't see these guys distancing themselves from these negative elements. They went and got behind it. They got behind the perv. 777 says, does Jared kneel before the Globe now? Does he apologize? His answer is not quite definitive because, like I said, if he's being completely honest and he saw the ISS, he should have stopped right then and there. If I saw the ISS right now, I would say, hey, the Earth has to be as described. And it has to be for a few reasons. One, it has to be a ball. There has to be orbit in order to explain a predictable light going around this thing every 93 minutes, because nothing in the atmosphere can go that fast. So if nothing in the atmosphere can go that fast, it has to be above the atmosphere in this hypothetical environment where there's no friction. But if it's predictable, then observations would continually affirm that it is a ball, that it would have to be. You could not fake an ISS on a flat Earth. You could not have any craft do a circuit of 25,000 miles every 93 minutes consistently to the second. It's not possible. So my point here is that seeing the ISS should have cemented for him that we're on a ball, far more than Antarctica. It should have happened years ago. And somehow he managed to move that goalpost. He managed to move the goalpost by saying, well, something's up there. It's shaped like the ISS, but I don't believe in the ISS, so it's not the ISS. Plain Dakota says, I completely disagree. It doesn't matter. You say you saw the light. I don't think you did. You saw a drone. Are you in New Jersey? You didn't see it. And I know you didn't see it. No, I know you, and you might believe you saw it, but you're mandoozled. You did not see it. And if you saw it once, then you have no reason to dispute the shape of the Earth. Now, you just have to, I guess you don't have to agree, but here's what I'd like you to understand. I cannot accept your observation if it's not also including all the information that would let me test to see if it's not an airplane. And these days, I won't accept a video unless there are two people recording the same thing. Like there was this video that was viral a little while ago where this guy was shining a laser pin at UFOs. So you see these UFOs in the sky, up in the stars, and then whenever he shines a laser on one, it blinks. And so he's like, wait, it looks like the UFOs are interacting with me. Well, no, it turned out that these were gnats flying above the iPhone lit by the torch. And so the gnats lit by the little light down here looked like stars. They looked like UFOs flying around. And his laser pen interacted with the gnats. Now, people thought that he was shining lasers at drones and they were interacting and it was this intelligent interconnection. No, it was gnats. It was bugs. And I'm just saying, it's really easy to be fooled by video evidence. And so for me to believe your video evidence is the space station, I need 2 cameramen, 2 different cameras, 2 different locations. And I'm not saying I don't believe that you believe, but I'm saying the best you can assert here is that you merely believe. You don't know for sure. You don't know for sure. You saw a light, and again, my argument here is solid, though. You can't refute this. There is nothing that man has made that could possibly go the 25,000 miles every 93 minutes without fail consistently for 20 years. The only way it would even be possible is if we're on a ball and it is the space station. And again, I've never seen the ISS. And the one I have seen on TV is fake. And the footage they show us from the ISS isn't real video footage. It's all simulation. Salty Siren says, just like the fog, people didn't realize it's fucking water vapor and filmed it with flash. Yeah, it's the visual illiteracy. People are deep faking themselves. Gondola says, what do you think the purpose of this clown world reality is? It seems like a waste of creation. That's an interesting question. That's a very... Yeah, you said you don't know what it is. Exactly. I reject ambiguous responses. If you can't sign your name next to it with a statement, undersign it. I saw a spacecraft or something that couldn't have been made by man's hand or some secret technology. Unless you could sign off that you saw something that was not a plane affirmatively, I don't even want it. I can't even accept it. If you can't rule out 100%, but you don't have the information. And my contention here is that if you've seen the ISS, you've done your homework. You have to have. In order to be there at the right place, look in the right direction, you have to have done some research. There's no way you would forget that information. And 90% of the people who would call me up would say, yeah, I saw the light in the sky. I'm like, where were you? I don't know. When was this? I don't remember. What was your longitude? How would I? It's like, were you abducted by a UFO? Maybe it was a flying saucer. It wasn't the ISS. And you got abducted, and you have a missing segment of time, and you have amnesia about the whole episode. You were probed. Because you didn't see the ISS. Because if you saw the ISS, you would have all that information. So I don't accept these vague observations. It's not evidence. Again, this is how we get drone panics. Plane says, just saying I saw the light with an app. Just saying I don't believe you, unless you can give me specifics. Give me specifics. And if you really believe this, you would do it again. And if you can't do it again, it's not repeatable. If it's not repeatable, it's not science. And I have yet to see someone who claims to have recorded a light do it more than once. I would do it 50 times. You know, I take pictures of sunsets. I take pictures of C-130s. I take pictures of helicopters. I take pictures of the Ospreys. I make it a point to take pictures of interesting things. Don't you think I would photograph the ISS? And you know the metadata is in that picture. That's what Mick West did. Mick West went through these various claims of drones, and he just looked at the metadata. And he compared it to a flight tracker site. And he said, no, these are all airplanes. And I also came up with this idea here, too, that we could take every alleged sighting of a chemtrail and apply the same standard. If you're going to say that you're seeing chemtrails, then you are alleging that some pilot is doing an evil deed. Chemical warfare. That airplane is a weapon, in a sense. So if you're claiming that you're getting chemtrailed, and you have a picture of that chemtrail, give me the metadata, and we will find out what plane did it. We could track every single trail and get rid of this notion that it's a secret program with drones, military drones. No, we could show that, no, these are all, and then you take that data and you say, okay, what was the temperature that day? What was the altitude? What was the pressure? And I would guarantee that every single one of these sightings would completely align with the prediction for condensation trail formation, 100% of the time. But as far as the question that was asked here about what is the purpose of this place, the world stage, the bread and circuses, I think it's crowd control. How do you control billions? I think it's crowd control. I think that the media is religion, that our worldview is only partially informed by science. It's actually augmented by a lot of superstition. But I would say that the mass media at large is the world state church, and it gives us our shared, collective, agreed upon worldview. And that the purpose of the bread and circuses is that they are entertaining us rather than putting boots on our faces. Like, it's an easier way to control us. It's mind war. One way I would explain it is, and I know Lynn Ertel hates it when I say this, I say, don't worry about the military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex is not a thing. It's the PSYOP entertainment complex. Think about it. Fake terror attacks, fake shootings, fake wars. I mean, what hasn't been faked? And we're talking about war and violence and all things, weapons of mass destruction. Well, what's the point? Because faking it is just as effective for controlling us. Rule number 9, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. The threat of the thing is more terrifying than the thing itself. And so we have these threats that are just protracted and dragged out and dragged out. But what are they doing? They're holding our attention. So you're being entertained. If they're holding your attention, whether you're outraged, you're in fear, that's all a form of entertainment. You may not be enjoying it, but you're entrained. You're hypnotized. So I say that the military-industrial complex is nothing compared to the PSYOP entertainment complex. In fact, the military-industrial complex is a fiction of the PSYOP entertainment complex. This is a game changer. One white pill. If nukes aren't real, then how did this fake thing completely organize our world? Put us in this state of this end times, for one. You know, we're in this end time state. It's like we're in our own apocalypse scenario. I mean, it's a game changer. Real News says, I'm guessing chemtrails could be weather modification. No, actually, here's the truth about chemtrails. They don't actually exist. It's a PSYOP against truthers. It's actually a recruitment tool as well. If you believe in chemtrails, the following can also be said of you. You don't notice loaded questions. You accept appeals to motive, and you fell for an appeal to ignorance. Because the question is, what are they spraying? Well, that assumes it's a spray, and that's a huge assumption, especially if you consider the volume of the trail compared to the size of the plane and how long these trails go. But to define it as a spray it's mislabeling it, for one, and it eliminates the real explanation right off the bat, because the real explanation is not a spray. It's an effect of hot air at certain altitudes. But the reason why they need you to believe in chemtrails is simple. It's part of the bigger PSYOP. Left-wingers believe in climate change. Even that guy who called in, the troll, he doesn't believe in climate change. But he believes that the government is secretly dumping chemicals on us to modify the weather and poison us. So one side thinks the corporations are screwing with the weather and poisoning us and need to be regulated. That's the climate change on the left. The right-wingers reject climate change, but they say the secret government is spraying stuff on us, poisoning us, and modifying the weather. So you're in complete agreement with Greta if you believe in weather modification and chemtrails. You both agree that man is screwing up the earth. You just disagree on who to blame. But both sides get blamed. Left blames right, right blames left, and they both are blaming humanity for screwing up the planet, and therefore requiring intervention from government or God. So it's all a PSYOP. There's no reason to believe in it. And the best you can say is you believe in it. You can't say you know it to be true. And when it comes to the chemtrail thing, it's a useless fear. And the people who claim they fear it don't take any action. So it's like, well, what's in the chemtrails? Does it give you apathy? Wear a mask. Maybe you'll become more active. But it's a useless fear, and I'm really against that. I'm really against being paranoid. You know, I don't think it's empowering or useful even. I kind of think that the whole PSYOP entertainment complex is built on entertaining and amusing you or scaring you, whatever works for you. Some people are blissfully entertained and others are terrified and triggered. And see, I'm not triggered. Like I say, don't buy ammunition, buy popcorn. Don't bother getting off the grid and digging yourself a bunker, because you're not off the grid if you're not off the grid mentally. Like, none of the people who think that you need to be a prepper know how much of the stuff they're reacting to is fake. You're overreacting, and you're in a defensive position, which is why I'm often saying that we've been conquered already. Like the other side already won. Like you're not fighting the info war. You're participating in the PSYOP entertainment complex. You're LARPing. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Oh, interesting. Derek Gatt says, I've been watching on the old channel. Okay. Yeah, the old channel, the very first channel was down since 2018 or 2017. I got it back. I emailed YouTube and I apologized. I said, I won't spread any more dangerous misinformation. I'm better now. And I did it as a joke. I just kind of did it impulsively. And out of my 7 or 8 channels that I appealed, I got back like 5 or 6 of them. Salty Siren says, I love how off the grid their house is online. Yeah, that's funny too. Like, look at me, I'm off the grid, guys. It's like, no, you're not. Like, I can see you. You're on TikTok. You're in the grid. Like, if you're off the grid, we wouldn't be hearing from you. But the idea of going off the grid is also an interesting thing too, because who were the people who resisted quarantine? Right-wingers. They resisted quarantine. It wasn't a lefty thing. The lefties loved it. But what did the right-wingers always want to do? I'm talking about right-wing conspiracy theorists. Going off the grid, becoming independent, going rural versus urban. Their whole thing is quarantining from the left, from the New World Order, from the progressive utopianism, and also from the media itself. So they're all this push towards their own alternative media and self-sustaining community. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. What I'm saying is it's all just virtue signaling and posturing. It's LARPing at best. And then the people who are off the grid but still online are reliant on people on the grid to fund their off-the-grid activities. Not all, I'm sure, but... Yeah, okay, don't buy ammunition, buy popcorn, because one of the things, too, to consider is the psychosomatic effects of the Psy War. Because, you know, if you're a true believer in it, like if you believe a liar and the person is lying to you consistently, it does somewhat damage you. And you could consider gaslighting and such to be a form of even psychological abuse. And if you're a believer in the mainstream media and you're responding to it, I would say you're in a toxic relationship. And sadly, the alternative media's relationship with news media in general, like the mainstream, it's even more deranged. Like all the paranoia adds up, is what I'm saying. Not just the paranoia, but I think that it inculcates a lot of divisiveness that doesn't exist in the real world. It's mind war. And I've opted out. I'm a conscientious objector. I'm not in the mind war. And I'm not making an equivalency between right and left as far as like, I'm not saying they're equally bad, but I do believe the political horseshoe theory has been implemented as a model, and the controlled opposition is as bad as the left. So the controlled opposition is what rules in Trutherville anyway, which is why we're not there. Trutherville has always been a target market for those who don't buy the mainstream. And here's how you know. If they're not calling stuff fake, if they're not addressing media fakery, then they're either not in the know and naive, or they're part of it. Like if you're not calling out the fake terror attacks, you might be part of the PSYOP entertainment complex. It's far more useful to look at it this way. Anything, you know, World War III isn't something that's looming and it's going to happen if we don't play our cards right. You know, World War III is the perpetual war that's ongoing. And it's a war waged in our minds through this information overload, and people are bewildered. You know, we're in a collective mass agreed upon delusion. And those of us who disagree with it, who step outside of it, are obviously chastised. We're apostates, media apostates. But it's clever. The whole system is so clever. How they get the people who are alternative thinkers, who see through it, who trust their intuition. They give them an alternative view that makes them feel like they're fighting the system when they've actually been conscripted into it. Like info warriors, right? Sounds noble. But the info warrior is just a mirror image of the wokester or the Antifa. They're really just, they're in the same game, and they operate on the same flawed premise that the stories that we see in the news are essentially real, but we just disagree on who to blame. And this fire thing is a perfect example. Alex Jones, right-wing InfoWars, are like, oh, this was started by illegal immigrant arsonists, and it was done by, of the negligence of the government and by Democrat politicians. So they have their explanation ready-made, and then the left is like, no, obviously it's climate change. I saw someone saying, look how ironic it is that Mel Gibson is on Joe Rogan denying climate change even as his house burns. Like, for them, it's a foregone conclusion that it was caused by climate change. Gondola Wish says the pendulum will now swing towards the far-right movement as seen in The Handmaid's Tale. I didn't see that coming, but I think you're right. I was listening to a lefty podcast on the Daily Beast, and all they talk about is how abortion rights are going to be restricted and how it's Handmaid's Tale. And then you throw in the influencers on the right, and they're all pushing for trad wives. They're all like overtly sexist, people like Nick Fuentes and stuff, which these are all just comedians. They're pose. But if you just look at the gestalt, the big picture, yeah, they're definitely seeming to push the pendulum that direction. Constant Elevation says, I feel like the chemtrails have made me more handsome. The chemtrails make you apathetic and angry. Like, you're both unwilling to do anything, but you're so mad. Mad enough to rant about it. And I put out this offer a long time ago. I said, hey, if you can convince me that chemtrails exist, I will get together a class action lawsuit, and I'll get a lot of press and media behind us, and we will start suing the airlines one by one, make them accountable. We will get experts. We will get a lot of attention on the subject. And if it's true, the truth will come out, and we can use this. But I couldn't get anybody to provide me any good information that would make me think it was real. But if I thought it was real, I would lead the crusade against it. However, none of the people who believe in it take any action. They don't even wear masks. Observing Reality says natural gender roles aren't sexist, Tim. Well, no, their sexism is based on this idea, like, and Nick Fuentes is a parody. But if you listen to them, the whole concept is they should be having babies at 16. They're all griping, like Nick Fuentes, Matt Walsh, all the right-wingers all of a sudden started griping about the age of consent being too high. And like, that's psychotic. But what they're suggesting here is that they should be having babies, they shouldn't be working and paying taxes, that it's a big scam to go become another taxpayer, and then the family's being destroyed. So they have this narrative that the trad wife thing is kind of built into. But it's largely just narrative. It's a story. See, the contrast is this: progressive utopianism, and then you have the opposite, what MAGA represents. So Make America Great Again means what? Great again, as in before feminism, before civil rights. So MAGA is an appeal to a idealized past. So you have idealized past, progressive utopianism. These are the sides of the political horseshoe, and they're both bad. I mean, they're both fictions. They're both worldviews that are designed to keep you in a state of constant war with the other side. Daniel Moore says, Tim is the chemtrail gatekeeper. Yeah, it's true. I get free air travel. The airlines send me coupons, and I get to fly anywhere for free because I help them keep it under wraps. As long as I can keep you all from looking up and questioning chemtrails, I get free flights. Derek says the spraying, if that's what it is, mostly comes from military-looking jets. I disagree. Actually, in fact, I emphatically disagree, and you're 100% wrong. The Appleman chart from it's like 1958. This thing called the Appleman chart was published. The Air Force used it, and they said, hey, look, military airplanes must not leave contrails because then we will be shot down. So the Air Force specifically created a chart so they could predict the conditions and altitudes that would create condensation trails so they could avoid those. So military jets have always avoided condensation trails because it would give away their location. So no, you've never seen military-looking jets giving you contrails. The only contrails you see are from commercial airliners who fly at 30,000 feet and higher. Now, that's a rumor that it's military drones doing it. It's a rumor that military airplanes are doing it. But no, you say that I see, name the military jets. It wasn't a C-130, not high enough. What kind of military jets are you talking about? And my response would be, no, you're not seeing it from those. The airplanes that you see up above, if you take a picture and you give us some metadata, you could track it. You could find out what plane it was. And you can get the altitude and the conditions, and it would all align with condensation trails. Real News Matter says the chemtrails I see come from small, quiet planes. They're small because they're far away. They're high. They're not really small. But what I would suggest is that if you think you're seeing a military airplane waging chemical warfare and dumping chemicals on children, the elderly, on just innocent people everywhere, which is what you're reporting, snap a picture, tweet about it. Say, hey, look, this is a military jet, or this is a secret jet. This is a non-commercial plane in our airspace, and it's dumping poisons. But don't just spread the rumor. If you want to do something with it, if you want me to get behind it, give us the date, time, location so we can cross-reference it. Because I would guarantee you're just seeing an airplane that can be tracked to Delta or Spirit. So the burden of proof has been shifted firmly. Condensation trails make more sense anyway as an explanation. And it's funny how saying so, people are like, this guy's a shill for the airlines. No, I just want to rule out any kind of logically fallacious claims that might be used against us. And the reason I don't believe in climate change for the most part is that, like, I think climate science is a real thing and we do have to care for the environment. However, you can't deny the political utility of it and how it's scapegoated in a very partisan way. So I don't just automatically agree with it. I reject the premise. Well, the right wing also has their comparable thing that blames the left. So it's just too partisan. I don't believe in these partisan psyops. Mount Crushmore, if you were to make up a t-shirt to sum it up, what would it say? If you're not auto-hoaxing, you're not paying attention. That would be one. I mean, that's an important one. In fact, I have one that was designed by Mick Media. And so this was this media company. I think it was an offshoot of Huffington Post. But anyway, they did a interview of me. They tried to make me look crazy. In fact, they still do on their website. But they designed this shirt, and it was like, it had a man in a triangle, and then next to that was a person in a box. And I think I have the design here because I kind of stole it. Oh yeah, here it is. And they did a breakdown of my basic take on things where I separate people into two categories. Those who automatically believe the news and those who automatically consider it fake until it can be proven real. And these are described as the auto-hoaxers or the auto-believers. These are two different ways of looking at the news. And this graphic is perfect because if you believe it, you're in their box. You're in a fictional universe. You're in a closed system of information. If you recognize that as a model, as a mental model, as a map that doesn't match the terrain, if you're outside of it and objective and you're skeptical, then of course you would be the auto-hoaxer outside the box looking in. So this is one of their graphics, and this shirt is in fact for sale. If you go to the ips.monster, I have a link there. But this one's a little esoteric to explain to people. Plain Dakota says, I want one that says auto hoax or GTFO with a penguin. Okay, I'll make note. I'll design stuff. I'm actually doing a music video right now. An animated music video that should be done in the next 48 hours. I've kind of been away. I've been working on that and some other projects. So hopefully I don't miss tomorrow night. I'm working on an animation. I don't want to give away any details, but I'll throw in a t-shirt there while I'm at it. Okay, let's see what else we have here. What was up with that troll brigade earlier? I mean, I don't think anyone here was offended, but if I delete this video, it's because they might be intentionally trying to get it deleted. I don't know. Yeah, it's very esoteric. You're right about that. How do you explain this concept clearly? And I've got charts. We're doing another auto hoax con. It's something we're working on. One thing to look forward to for 2025 is we are going to be doing the very first ever auto hoax convention. So it's not a conspiracy theory convention where you have your alien people, your Bible Earth people, your chemtrail people, and then your whatever, your various usual run-of-the-mill conspiracy theory types who go to these places. We don't want that. It's only going to be media skeptics, media fakery analysis. We're not entertaining any agendas, no religions, no political ideology. But that's going to happen later this year. Let's see, what else do we have here? Mount Crushmore, can you make a t-shirt for the... Yeah, absolutely. They already... Yeah, I think I'll take your ideas into account here. If you just put them in the chat, I'll make a list. I can edit out I can edit the trolls out. I can pull out the calls and just excise them. They were just low quality trolls, that's all. Interesting. Weird timing for the Predator-themed trolls after we discussed the doco. Yeah, they seem to have an agenda. I don't know what they were talking about, but they were throwing out key words. And I think these key words are flaggable things. I don't know. But yeah, I'll pull it from YouTube. I have so many backup channels, but I'm not going to risk the main one. And the person who contacted me on Twitter gave me some information about them, but I'm not really all that interested. I just thought the timing of it was kind of conspicuous, given the recent conversation we had with, what's his name? Very forgettable, the Jesuit chaser guy. Really, I couldn't care less about that, though. Yeah, it'll be this year, Thinkerbell. We're going to be doing it likely in June. I want to have this Auto Hoax Con likely end of May, early June, before June 11th, for sure. I want it before June 11th so we can talk about that. But we do have enough people as far as speakers. We have a lot of content. There's going to be a lot more. And I think we can have a really info-dense convention that puts all of our best ideas forward, the best thinkers on the subject. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to build what I call the parallel media. So you got your alt and mainstream in the box, but what do you call those of us who aren't in that box? I call it parallel media. It's not anti, because I think it's important that we're not trying to oppose the media, because that's what the truthers do. And they are the media. They don't know it. The alt media is media, and they think they're the anti because they are the, well, controlled opposition. It's pretty simple. If you are espousing any truther-isms, if you're an orthodox truther, you are the controlled opposition. You're a propaganda mule at best. You're being used. You're a stooge. So those of us who aren't propaganda mules, with our saddlebags full of red pills that are all toxic, same manufacturer as the blue pill, but where do we go? Well, I call it the parallel media because we're not antagonistic, but we have a parallel body of work. And if you notice, all the fake news goes into the history books as real. So what we have is we have a parallel account of things from our perspective that is inclusive of their lies, but also includes additional information. So we're not trying to stop them. I have no interest in stopping or opposing. I'm entertained by them. Why would I want them to stop? And that's our attitude for the most part, is that we're not engaging on that level. I have no problem with media or alt media personalities. I'm a critic of their performances. Gondola says, what type of food will be served? Probably none. I mean, I really want to emphasize that this is going to be groundbreaking in that every time there's been a conspiracy conference, I think they've all been led by Miragemen, by feds. I mean, have you seen the documentary Miragemen? It's about how the very first person, not first, but there's a popular online personality who was recording aircraft leaving an Air Force base, actually down the street from me. And he was reporting these things as secret technology. And so these are like secret craft. So the Air Force sent some agents into his life pretending to be fellow conspiracy theorists. So you have Air Force agents pretending to be conspiracy theorists, and they start feeding him bad information, and then they have him set up a convention. So they have a conference. Now they have a conference for all of these people who have witnessed stuff they may not have realized was maybe Air Force technology they weren't supposed to see, something that was perhaps classified. So now the Air Force gets to find out who is looking into them. And on top of it, they can flood it with a lot of bad information to make them look crazy, like stories of being abducted, for example. So the documentary Mirageman is about how this conspiracy theorist's life is infiltrated, and then he's made to look crazy, and he's made to make a lot of other people look crazy. And whenever they had these conferences, these agents would just go to the hotel logs and find out everything about everybody who was in the know about anything they shouldn't be in the know about. And what I'm suggesting here is that that is the standard way that alternative media has been run. Like every single conference has been set up by Mirageman. And that's why the Flat Earth conferences had these strange characters in front of them. I mean, Logan Paul, who was pranking everybody, was the lead speaker. It made zero sense to anybody there. And so, like, my idea here with this Auto Hoax Con is like, here, this is finally a convention on media fakery that isn't going to be led by controlled opposition. No shills. It's only us. All right, Derek is mad because I don't believe in his chemtrails. Yeah, go cry about it. I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to call you're not going to call the airports and complain. You're not going to call the National Guard to set up air defense artillery. You're not going to wear a mask. You're not going to put a mask on your dog when you walk them. You're not masking your kids. Like, you're not doing anything. You're apathetic. You've been cowed by chemtrails, and you're going to come get mad at me because I don't believe in chemtrails. So you might as well you're a crisis actor at this point. I'll send you my thoughts and prayers, Derek. Thoughts and prayers that you don't get chemtrail lung, which you can get. You can get chemtrail lung psychosomatically if you believe in it hard enough. I'm Not E became a member. Awesome, thank you. Lieutenant Weinberg, AJ went on a diet, no more burgers. No, AJ is just straight eating neighbor's ass. He's gone cannibal, like he said he was going to do back in 2020. He said, I'm sizing up my neighbors. He looks like it. He looks like he's ready for World War III. Okay, let's see what else we're going to do here. I don't know what it is. I blocked a few people tonight. We had a few trolls. It's like, if you can be a troll here, at least try to be entertaining. Try harder. Okay, let's go through the rest of my notes here. There's so much more. So I don't know about this, but there is Flat Earth Zone's video, and I did highlight these lines. He does believe. This is Stitchgate. So those of you who are asking, Stitchgate is the newest gate where it appears to be, according to some people, that there are lines in the sky in Antarctica, which would suggest that they are inside of some kind of a hangar, a big building, an interior. So they didn't do it. We can rule out Vegas. They didn't fake Antarctica at the Vegas sphere. Because if they did it at the Vegas sphere, they wouldn't have any right angles in the sky. So a couple of people believe this. I still don't know yet. Yeah, if you want to get into Discord after this, I'm definitely interested. Yeah, AJ will eat corn on the cob, says Lieutenant Weinberg. Yeah, he specifically said he'd be eating his lefty neighbors. But he is a great entertainer. I mean, Alex Jones is the best at what he does. And if you're drinking the Kool-Aid in Alex Jones Town in 2025, you're just, you're a mind war casualty. It's not a hater thing. I mean, I feel the same way about Jones as I do about Anderson Cooper. Like, what's the difference? There isn't one. But if you go to ips.monster, you will indeed see all the links to all of the different channels. We've got Discord. Gilded is where the more serious research goes, but Discord is kind of catching up. Here's a link if you want to order anything as far as the print-on-demand items that have those designs on them. I also have links to all the different podcasts we're on: TuneIn, Audible, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Spotify. And you can sign up for free notifications. These notifications are for live streams and for our different Discord meetups. And I also upload the archives there. So as far as tonight's archive, I'm going to have to do some editing first. So it might take a couple days. Like I said, I'm working on an animation, but I'll probably do them at the same time. But this is a music video that I'm working on animation for. Someone sent me a rough track. I haven't heard the final version, but I'm going to kind of not talk about it, or rather give it away till it's done. Observing Reality says, AJ has more energy and passion than Cooper. Alex Jones is Trump. Yeah, Alex Jones and Bill Cooper. I don't think they got along too well. William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, is rather good. He had Q security clearance. It's one of the things he talks about. He was a DMLA, which means he was a youth Mason, and then he had Q security clearance. And he thinks that his involvement, or he suggested his involvement with the youth Mason group, is what got him into the part where he somehow was able to witness flying saucers coming out of the ocean. If you believe that. I think Jones got invited to Bohemian Grove. I don't think he sneaked in. It just seems like an inside job. Oh, I see. I thought you said Anderson Cooper. Sorry, I thought you meant Bill Cooper. Is Bill Cooper Jordan Maxwell? I would say no. Jordan Maxwell had some interesting talks before he passed, and he was talking about the symbolism of the sun and how consistent it is in newspapers. And he had made some fascinating connections. Talking about Jordan Maxwell. Who's done a lot, I think. He's done quite a lot, and he wasn't credited with everything. In fact, I think the movie, was it the Dan Brown-based movie, The Da Vinci Code? It had a scene where Tom Hanks is doing a presentation on comparative mythology and symbolism, and that was straight out of Jordan Maxwell's lecture. He didn't get credit for it, though. Was Bill Cooper's death real or staged? I've heard different versions. I heard that he died in a shootout. Oh yeah, so I was interviewing Jordan Maxwell. We were trying to do a show. He wanted to do this thing called Mr. Saturday Night, and he was way into Saturn symbolism, and he was part of our dark matter network for a little while. But let's see what else we have here. I'm trying to think. Maxwell. Yeah, Jordan Maxwell is actually giving a talk, a conspiracy talk, on 11/22/63, the day that JFK was shot. But he also had some interesting things to say about George Lucas, because he analyzed Saturnian symbolism. That's one of the things we were talking about. I'm Not E says Lenin was Steve Jobs. I think Steve Jobs was John Lennon. And John Lennon's killer, Mark Chapman, had a copy of Catcher in the Rye, as did John Hinckley, who shot Reagan. And Catcher in the Rye was broken down by the author of Caesar's Messiah, and it was like Joseph Atwill, and it was like this idea that Catcher in the Rye contains within it, if you know what you're looking at, a subtext that has the main character being led in to a secret society that runs the world and kills its enemies. That it has this dark subtext, but this is the breakdown by Joseph Atwill, and it's interesting because he suggests that the book's presence at an assassination is a signature of the assassin. Okay, let's see here. Lieutenant Weinberg says, in your interview, Maxwell said something like the masses were betrayed. Yeah, he was really big into the legal stuff, which I don't really care to get into. He was into a lot of the stuff. We weren't obviously coming from the same place in everything, but we did have a lot of interesting overlap. And what he kind of pointed out to me was that the symbolism in the architecture and the words specifically give away a lot of the power structure, but you wouldn't know it if you weren't initiated. And this is a key concept that I often bring up, is that what we're really seeing here when we're talking about the world stage is the world stage construct is the Truman Show that they put into your head. And it is in fact a hoodwink, that it is a veil of ignorance. It's a closed system of information, and it's controlled by the people who have seen the light, who've had the veil removed. And one of the main themes here is that if you have an initiate understanding of the symbolism, you will see deeper into the things that aren't meant for the people who don't have that. So you have the sacred and the profane. So the profane are the masses who wander in darkness. And that's, someone said, what's the purpose of this? The whole purpose of the PSYOP entertainment complex is to maintain the state of darkness. And the people who have seen the light are the ones who control this, who run the PSYOP entertainment complex. They have some insight into how fake it all is, how manipulated we are. And I would also suggest too that the programmers aren't all fully aware of the full extent of the fakery. The compartmentalization would exist all the way to the top. Like we have an advantage here. The masses are in the dark at the bottom level of the lie world order. Then you have this pyramid where media, entertainers, politicians kind of go higher and higher up. But it's only at the capstone where you would have a full view of all the fakery. And I don't know how many people exist at that capstone level. Most people are at these various layers. But those of us who have exited or left, so we exit this world stage construct and we look at it as such, we don't have to deal with the compartments. We're not being let in selectively to participate in one particular operation. We're treating it like open source. This is just open source research, open source illumination. No blood oaths, no NDAs, none of that stuff. We're just kind of trying to trailblaze here. And largely what we're doing is we're deviating from the standard alt media methodology, which has always been misleading, which is to say it's a false flag. It's real, but this is the real story. They never get rid of the initial premise that it's real. Lieutenant Weinberg says, Tim, did you know James Woods is one of the Hollywood actors that was scheduled to be on 9/11? Woods has been, yeah, definitely. James Woods is one of these actors who is also a crisis actor. There's a lot of them. And I've been saying for some time that crisis acting is the new Hollywood. Like it's a major status symbol. I mean, look at Steven Guttenberg. He's a hero. One minute he's in a movie, I think it was called Lava Lantula, about giant spiders that spew lava burning down Los Angeles. And he's fighting these things and he saves the day. And then he's on the news saving lives, moving cars, and helping the fire department. I mean, it's like, wow, that's interesting. They use these celebrities to really sell these psyops. So then we see James Woods talking about how his house is burning down and he's crying. So that gets all kinds of attention. And that's what they use these individuals for. Now, his house didn't really burn down. What brought it back? Was it thoughts and prayers brought back his house like it healed Trump's ear? I mean, he just basically acted, got the loosh out of everyone, got the attention, and that's all they want. It's attention. The entertainment complex, the PSYOP entertainment complex, gets your attention. It entertains you. It appeals to your emotions. The fact that I don't care really helps. Like, I really don't care what's on the news. Like, I watch it, I'm engaged, but at the same time, it's no more meaningful or important to me or urgent than what's on Netflix. Like, it's literally like that for me, and it should be. The idea that you should just automatically care as the headlines are published, that's a formula for emotional dysregulation. Like, how can you have peace of mind if you overreact to every overreacting, bleeding headline? Yeah, he said his house burned down on TV, and then he said it was a miracle later. No, it's not a miracle. You were wrong. I mean, but a miracle. I might have some. Oh, here's something. This is good. I believe this was found by Mom with Sons. This is good. So there's a movie called, what is it called here? Season 1, Episode 9, The Rams. Okay, here it is. This is from Mom with Sons. You've been talking about Steve Guttenberg, and poof, he shows up in Season 1, Episode 9 of High Potential. So here he is. Steven Guttenberg and neighbors spared by fire. They've banded together. So they're fighting this unbelievable horror. And the way they describe it sounds like they're talking about lava spewing giant tarantulas. So here he is in this show called High Potential. So she looks through it. The second scene, same necklace, couldn't get a good look at it, but he's got a fire poker in the entire scene. So here he is, a fire poker over his shoulder. This is Steven Gutenberg, who put out the fires in Palisades and put down the giant tarantulas. Now, what do you call this? What do you call this? Someone asked here, ask if it was sync or concurrent programming. Yeah, exactly. There are various ways to interpret this. One, it's just a coincidence. Two, it was deliberately put there as some part of a synchronization between entertainment and fake news. Or three, we live in a simulation, which I tend to think is a lazy non-answer and explanation at this point. Oh, really? Sleepy says they're rating Jurassic right now? I bet he hates that. I mean, he gets some bad trolls as it is. And he doesn't have... Well, I don't know if he has mods there. I hope he does. Well, I hope he didn't catch it from us. Like, I feel bad that he calls our channel and I share his link and then my trolls go to him. That's terrible. Someone just sent me a voicemail. Agree with you 100%. Everything is fake. They've been showing us and telling us to keep us in control. We're just another... Yeah, interesting. They've been showing... Yeah, there is something to this. James Shelby Downward suggested that they reveal it to you in order to gain your acquiescence or complicity, your consent. And I didn't used to think that was a good answer. But there is a point here where it almost seems like it reinforces some kind of apathy. Like, I look at the apathy of the chemtrail believer. These people are mad at chemtrails, but they can't take any action. Like, why is that? Maybe it makes them feel powerless. You leave the house and you have evidence of your own oppression right there. Oh, the sky used to be blue and the sun was yellow. Now the skies are milky white and the sun is this like white, pale, dying thing. It's probably being blotted out by Bill Gates. Poison's raining down. You can't grow crops anymore. Populations are dwindling. Geoengineering, wreaking climate chaos. Like, it's very dark. Anyway, I'm not in that nightmare realm. James Woods was also there to witness the robbery at the Bellagio shortly after the Harvest Festival. Right. Yeah, so some of these actors attached themselves to PSYOPs. Do you remember when, I think it was Cardi B called some people out after the 2020 thing happened, and she suggested that she wanted in on it? And I thought, that's funny. Like, she intuited that people were lying for money, and then she suggested that she could get in on it. And later, she was making a lot of money, I believe, with the home tests. She was investing in these things. But my point is, yes, these Hollywood actors are there to sell you on the PSYOP. So there is no, and I said this a long time ago, I used to say it as a joke, that there's no meaningless, there's like when I first said this, I was being completely facetious. There's no meaningful distinction between Hollywood and the news. And as time progressed and as we looked at this more closely, we realized, no, these things are actually fused together. There is no meaningful distinction. And it's beyond just fusing them together to sway public opinion or influence us, but they're deliberately synchronized in very precise ways. So the messaging is there, but these things, it's so precisely interlocked. It's like they're so synchronized that we can see it. JLB and I were talking about 3/11, the day of the pandemic, and he had brought up something, how there was some TV show he was watching, I think it was Seinfeld, where season 3, episode 11, and it was like plane flights being canceled, people getting sick. So this theme that was immediately associated with 3/11. And I was like, well, you got to check out season 3, episode 11 of The Office. And that episode, St. Patrick's Day, is like the 119th episode even, but same date, 10 years prior to 3/11/2020. And the episode was about someone at work coming down with the sickness and wearing a mask, and everybody thought it was weird. Multiple things that tied into 2020. But I say it's systemic. It's actually programmed. It's intrinsic to what media is, that there is no meaningful separation. Lieutenant Weinberg says, last time I heard of Steve Gutenberg was 3 men and a baby. Yeah, well, they're getting in on the crisis acting. the idea that this guy was allowed by the fire department to run around saving people is ludicrous. And then I detected some other agenda here when he said he was moving cars, but he couldn't move the electric vehicles. So I know there's some agenda there as well. Everything here is agenda. And it's like, how many universes do we live in at the same time here? It's like one group says, oh, it's the illegal immigrants setting the fires. Other group, it's space lasers. Other group, it's climate change. Like, we might as well include fire-breathing giant tarantulas, because these are all interchangeable. It's just opinions. Okay, let's see what else we have here. So great find there. Steven Gutenberg with a fire poker. Season 1, Episode 9, High Potential. And one other point I want to bring up here. So the person who posted this didn't randomly find this. We are operating here under the premise that we're right, that the entertainment media is there to prepare us for and reinforce the fake news. Knowing this, we can look at any artifact here, any news show or TV show rather, that's popular. It has to be popular. It has to be one that is being promoted. So we're looking at this echo chamber effect. So what is being promoted right now? And I always find stuff in the #1 movies. But the fact that recognizing that this person is likely involved in a psyop, that you find something in a movie that perfectly corresponds to it, yeah, that's not coincidence. That is understanding what we're looking at. These aren't randoms. We're not doing the Texas sharpshooter fallacy where you just have a lot of shots and you just circle the ones that match. No, we're actually able to predict these things with regularity. I mean, one of the best ones I've seen so far in the last 6 months has been The Madness. Maybe I haven't seen it yet. I have to see The Homestead, because The Homestead is the one that has Los Angeles getting nuked. And it came out just before Christmas, and it has the chaos, it has the looters getting arrested, has all these things. So the timing of it is good, or interesting rather. And recently, Trump was out or talking about this stuff, and he compared it to Hiroshima. And so they're even evoking that. What do I have here from Skydog? He had an interesting rabbit trail to follow here. Regarding Dan Brown's Inferno, there's a consortium organization, describes itself as having the business of faking events for wealthy clients, according to Dan Brown in the preface. Okay, I'll have to look into that. That Dan Brown. And Dan Brown Inferno came out on 10/28. We're talking about Dan Brown. The Tom Hanks movie Inferno, about a super virus that shuts down the world. Lots of interesting overlapping connections. Tom Hanks is another example of an actor who is also involved in the PSYOP entertainment complex. Well, we've been here for about 3 hours, and I have not even gotten through all my notes here. We have something from Tom Hanks, though. Let me go ahead and bring this up. This is from Conscious Daughter. Go to timestamp 49 seconds. Okay, what do we have here? Rituals disguised as entertainment, the start of it all. Okay, so let me go ahead and play this clip from Conscious Reality. The truth is that they are rituals disguised as entertainment.
Situation, but I remember him being sick at the Academy Award.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Right now, there is definitely an overall panic to it. People are freaked out and so forth. And I'm like, okay, wait till the first celebrity gets it. Then boom, Tom Hanks get it. And then the first black celebrity, A-list celebrity gets it, Idris Elba. But what's really going to create panic is when one of these celebrities dies from it. Because all these basketball players have it. If Kevin Durant dies, God forbid, it's going to go ballistic.
Yeah, if any one of them passed and they said it's related to this, then
people are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a longer video. I'm actually going to share a link here because you have to read it. But it's talking about, quote, the captive audience spell. And, we are a captive audience. But it's going through the various costumes and ceremonies of 2020 and how they all reiterated this theme here. Rituals disguised as entertainment. Yeah, I think we're looking at almost a form of mass hypnosis at times. Now, I said 1028 is significant for Inferno for the following reasons. Inferno is about a super virus that shuts down the world, and Tom Hanks's character is quarantined at the beginning of it in Italy. Well, when the corona thing happens, he's quarantined in Australia. And Inferno is the name of the virus. Well, what was happening at the time? Australia was on fire. He was there for climate change reasons. Meanwhile, Italy is now locked down. So you have that connection with the Dan Brown book, Tom Hanks, the quarantine, the Italy thing. And then it came out on 10/28, which is Bill Gates' birthday. And it's also the date, I think, of the guy who invented the polio vax. It's interesting date. Didn't Elvis took the polio vax 10/28? So the significance of 10/28, we also brought it up because that was a date that Matthew Perry died. And that had all kinds of connections to Leave the World Behind, which had now 10/28, remember. So Leave the World Behind was released on 12/8. And then Leave the World Behind had some foreshadowing for the Dolly, the boat hitting the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which was at 1:28 a.m. So there's been a lot of interesting things with the 12/8, 10/28. You had that environmentalist who had that, one of them set himself on fire, the other one chained herself to a tennis court thing, and it said, we have 1,028 days to live. So there's been a lot of significance to the date, 10/28. The first Q drop, the first ever Q drop was on 10/28, 2017. So there's quite a lot about that particular date that for some reason ties in with the pandemic agenda in most ways. But here's a video if you want to watch this. Rituals disguised as entertainment. I put a link to it on myminds.com as well. Candace Owens thinks dinosaurs are fake. Simon Dan addresses Candace Owen. She just kind of came up on my radar because I believe her husband was over there at the Antarctica thing. And she's done some interesting work. I've listened to her talk. And honestly, it sounds like she's word salad-ing fringe conspiracy. Like she butchers it. She's like, did you know that Aleister Crowley started NASA? I'm like, what? How would you arrive at that? So we're talking about Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley in a certain context, but the JPL thing, the Babylon working, but the leaps that she makes are incoherent and they don't trace to anything real. It doesn't actually explain anything, but it almost seems like she's just kind of throwing it out there as a way of generating a lot of noise and clicks and attention, but it's not legitimate research. So for her to say she doesn't believe in dinosaurs, it's hardly a reasonable response. It's not what I would consider to be informed skepticism. So I describe what we are here, what we aim for is informed disbelief, because that's preferable to low information belief. In her case, I would describe it as low information disbelief combined with low info belief. It's just her. I'll let you listen to a little bit of it here. Her stuff about NASA and Aleister Crowley is just so off base.
Is the belt that the 200 miles out you hit the
asteroid belt? No.
Van Allen belt.
Closer to 400 miles, but stretching all the way out to
36. Okay, wait, I don't want to play too much of Simon Dan. Here we go.
To Google what material the shuttle was made out of. And then I want you to Google at what temperature
that would burn.
I'm trying. She's going through a lot of stuff here. I'm trying to find the part where she talks about Aleister Crowley.
The nations and got inspired by the Whore of Babylon and created a
Okay, this is good. This is good. This is the part that I'm critical of.
Aleister Crowley recipients. So they were considered, the religion was called Thelema. They believed that they could create the whore. They read, basically, Aleister Crowley was a Satanist, the most well-known Satanist of the time. And he basically, when he was a kid, he read the Bible, read Revelation, read about the Whore of Babylon, which would like conquer the nations, and got inspired by the Whore of Babylon and created a religion about that, which was called Thelema. And his protege was Jack Parsons. He was the creator of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which became the Apollo program.
Okay, first off, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
There's a few things here. I'm not going to get too much into it, but Crowley died before NASA was formed. But, you know, I guess it's hard to nutshell the stuff and just put it into like sound bites. Maybe that's the problem. But it's a much more nuanced discussion. But I don't think she's helping the situation. And it just seems to me that they put a lot of these influences out there to cloud things and perhaps even make sure that there's not too much signal. Got to keep all the noise out there. Now listen to this. This is Jay Leno describing how the entire city has been wiped out, and they compare it to a nuke.
And people are coming by once you...
Now, recently Jay Leno was in the news for getting the eye wound. He had the black eye, the patch. Prior to that, it was for his ear wound. Some have suggested that there's some kind of a connection here. First the ear, then the eye, the sequence. But let me play, let me play this first. This is Jay Leno in his description.
To meet Jay Leno. What you came by to drop off some supplies.
Well, we're cooking for the crew, and well, you guys, if you're hungry, we got a big barbecue going, and because they're all getting boxed lunches.
Okay, let me get to that point where he says it's sort of like Hiroshima. Here we go. And they compare it to 9/11 as well.
It's the biggest natural disaster. Not that 9/11 was a natural disaster, but it's literally on that scale. I mean, it's 10,000 buildings. I mean, you can't even, if you drove all day, you couldn't see 10,000 buildings. I mean, you get on that hill and you look for miles, and there's nothing. It looks like Hiroshima or just some horrible thing.
So what I'm pointing out here is comparing it to Hiroshima, Trump comparing it to that. I don't think these are random descriptions of somebody who's just describing things as they are. I think it's beyond hyperbole. I think this is part of the story, the narrative that goes into history, these comparisons being made. I think it's just part of creating this zeitgeist. Why does Jay always look like a homeless person? Lieutenant Weinberg says, yeah, I thought L. Ron Hubbard was his mentor or that other dude. Yeah, Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, I don't know if you'd consider him a protege, but there is something of a torch being passed as far as who's the representative head of the group. But it's sort of an oversimplification. And I think you have to also consider how it's the whole space program itself. You know, it kind of goes back to even I would consider the Russian rocket pioneers and their cosmism. The idea that space is the new heaven is what I'm always pointing out here. That we have atheists who don't believe in heaven, they don't believe in God, or gods that might flood the world if we're bad. They don't believe in that nonsense. But they believe in space. They believe in aliens. They believe in climate change. So I kind of think that this one world order religion needed to have something that even the atheists would believe in. And so space to me is a form of utopianism. It's part of their model, but it's more likely this utopian thing that we'll never achieve, but it unites everybody. And so the concept of space itself, I think, is more of a religious concept. And what we saw with Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and that movie Starlet was this bizarre kind of fusion of science fiction and occultism that is still kind of there in the subtext of NASA. But what I would suggest here is that if anything, you could describe NASA as a mystery school. I would describe it as almost as an Egyptian mystery school. And that these rockets are there for the symbolism. They're not really there. It's not really there as a vehicle to take you to some distant paradise in the heavens. No, it's just an obelisk. It's a symbol of resurrection. It's more symbol and pageantry than functional device because it can't really take you there. So it's more like the function of NASA is more symbolic and theatrical and pageantry than actual. It's another, and that's the idea of utopia. It means like nowhere. You're never going to achieve it. It's unachievable. It's this pie in the sky. How many religions have promised, heaven and these grandiose visions of paradise that people kill and die for and assume that it's true? And I just say that space is like the replacement heaven so that you can have your atheistic scientific paradigm but still have everybody on the same sheet. And I think it's important to note where you're on the same sheet as everybody else, even if it looks slightly different from the exterior. So the idea of both sides freaking out about the climate, that's by design. If you're freaking out about the climate because of Greta or because of chemtrail dude on the internet, you're still kind of buying into this false model. 777 says, propagandist Owens, fake cried for the Tennessee trans shooter psyop. Oh, Audrey Hale, right? Is that the one? The Covenant School shooting? Audrey Hale, next to Robert Crimo, two of my top favorite crisis actor shooters. Totally fake. The Audrey Hale shooter is 100% based off of Elle from Stranger Things. And Robert Crimo also has a corresponding character in Stranger Things. Stranger Things is about the satanic panic of the 80s. And the satanic panic was brought back with Pizzagate. And if you note what they've done with these recent spate of shooters, they've all been kind of attached to a satanic panic, but also a moral panic, because they're lefties going after Christian kids, and they have gender ideology, and they're Satanists. So they have this new kind of devil they've created. It's like the bowl cut shooter, the racist bowl cut shooter always shooting up the schools, has now stepped aside, and they brought out this new shooter that's leftist, motivated by Reddit and such. But they've attached it to a new satanic panic and a moral panic as well. All fake. But it's not a coincidence that these shooters have these biases, have these agendas, and have corresponding characters in entertainment. And these corresponding characters in entertainment are, and it goes really kind of deep here, but the Stranger Things connections are fascinating on a number of levels. Because the Robert Crimo has a corresponding character in Stranger Things. Crimo was the guy with the 47 on his head that shot up the parade on 4/7 or 4th of July. The guy who had Oswald on his wall and went to Trump rallies. So you had this sniper character idealizing Oswald, going to Trump rallies with the 47 on his head. So Crimo is out of Stranger Things, one of these characters. Stranger Things, the Hellfire Club, and the Satanic Panic. Now you tie this together with Elle, because Elle is the main character in it. And then you can add into it, in Stranger Things, Matthew Modine. Matthew Modine, who gets shot in the season finale. It goes rich because it ties into the story and the shooting. But the thing about Matthew Modine is he's Joker in Full Metal Jacket. And Full Metal Jacket, in the subtext, Joker, the cameraman, is basically JFK. That's why he has the target on the side of his head. So I was looking at this before because I was saying, hey, this 45 on the side of Trump's head, the 4547, seems to be a Kubrick touch. It reminds me of the target on the side of the head. But Matthew Modine, of course, JFK connection. These things are somewhat intricate, but they make sense, especially when you've watched these movies and you've seen how they correspond to the TV show. So, for example, Elle kills number 1. So Elle is 11. She's the 11th created of these mind control patients who exhibit these psychic powers. So Elle is number 11, but number 1 is the one that she kills at the end. So this is interesting because their creator is the Matthew Modine character. So the first created, she kills. So now her corresponding school shooter, Audrey Hale, is shooting up the school, and she stops in the chapel, and she shoots a stained glass window that has Adam. You know, Adam and Eve? She shoots Adam. So she kills number 1, the first created man. And this ties into her character who kills number 1. So there's this reoccurring theme that she's essentially mad at God. And in the movie, she's mad at her creator. But so many parallels. But beyond that, they physically resemble each other so much that you could mix them up. And then, interestingly, too, Jack Posobiec, who started the recent Pizzagate satanic panic, he has this calendar where he says Audrey Hale is in hell. 1 week now. Audrey Hale has been in hell for 55 days. Audrey Hale has been in hell for 6 months. And he's counting how long she's been in hell. Well, her corresponding character in Stranger Things, Elle, goes into what they call the Upside Down. So they're part of the Hellfire Club, which is like this role-playing game group. But then they go into this underground realm like hell. They call it the Upside Down. So the whole show is about how Elle is in hell. So Audrey Hale is in hell. Elle is in hell. Elle living in the Satanic Panic. Audrey Hale in the Pizzagate Satanic Panic. So again, this is a deliberate correlation between real-time news psyops, fake events, and what's in the entertainment. And the starting of that last season of Stranger Things had a warning label. If you recall, Stranger Things had to put a warning at the beginning of this episode because, here we go. It was because there was a shooting at Uvalde. And if you recall, the shooting at Uvalde had a bunch of children being shot, and the opening scene in season 4, Elle had killed a bunch of children. Fascinating stuff. Joe Santos says, Elle is a lot of things. The show, Death Note, the smartest person they can find is named Elle. Yeah, Elle is one of these names. Like we mentioned Elvis, but the Elle thing is a reference to Saturn or light or name of God. But yeah, it does show up in a lot of these things. But the fascinating thing here is that for like an entire year, this cast of characters had corresponding shooters. And these are, these aren't synchronicities. These aren't mere coincidences. These are alignments. They're selling stories. And what's fascinating too, in a way, is how the killing of the CEO, for example, in The Madness is justified. Just like the killing of the CEO by Luigi was justified by a lot of people. And if you look at this Robert Crimo story and his corresponding character and the bad guy played by Matthew Modine, it's like they're in advance. They're building sympathy for the shooter. They want, I think, a large segment of the population to find the shooter to be a hero. And this Luigi story shows us how perfectly this stuff works. I mean, everything about the Luigi story is based on, his characterization is largely the Joker. The whole narrative is Joker, class warfare. But a lot of it came right out of The Madness. And interestingly, The Madness has Elon Musk as like the main antagonist. They don't call him that, but that is who he's based upon. And I ascertained this my first watching of it, and then later I saw it showing up in reviews that it's got to be some kind of a Musk composite. But the idea throughout is rich oppressing the poor, and if the poor rise up and shoot a CEO, it's good because it's class warfare. And the idea that all these people are going to dress up like Luigi and put on hoods and have these Luigi lookalike contests, they're dressing like the shooter who they saw as a hero, who took a move that's going to inspire others. Well, in the Joker, if you recall, he kills some rich guys in the subway. And the subway, again, represents the underclass, the oppressed. So he kills these rich guys. And then other people put on a clown mask and they want to emulate him. So the idea that both of these shooters were seen as heroes for killing the rich, kill the rich with a clown. No coincidences. There's also been some fascinating connections here between these recent CEO, like the guy who blew up the Cybertruck in front of the Trump Tower, ostensibly aiming at a CEO, Musk, Cybertruck, Trump, going to be the 47th CEO of America, right? Well, he was a Green Beret. And then Luigi, you associate with the character with the green hair, or the green hat. Then Joker, green hair. But the Green Beret, green hair things, and the attack in the CEO thing seems to be consistent here. And I think it was Jurassic Liars pointed this out, that the hotel that the CEO was coming out of when he was shot by Luigi has 47 stories. And it's the place where Trump went for his acceptance speech. So CEO of the 47th. And then he gets caught at a McDonald's. And Trump was just at a McDonald's. So you're kind of making this other connection here, I think, with now they're in the same place. Not same time, but it's just kind of, a lot of it's just associating these things. But Robert Crimo and the 47 stuff was all foreshadowing for Oswald and this event with Trump. This is why we were ready for the Trump head wound on 7/13. We were expecting it. But that's not the whole story. I mean, obviously there's something else coming. So one of the reasons why, someone said, well, who do you think is going to win the election? And I said, I'm guessing Trump simply because there's so much predictive programming that hasn't come into fruition yet. There's no way they take him off the stage yet. Now, is Kamala off the stage for good? Likely, however, the movie Civil War has Trump or Trump-esque character in the office, and they have the Kamala come kill her. So, anyway, we've been on here for 3 hours and 11 minutes. I want to say thanks, everyone, for your time and your comments. And yeah, we had trolls. No big deal. I'm going to fix that.
Now
I'm not going to upload it in this fashion. And so I'm going to delete this video. So if you're not subscribed to ips.monster, I recommend you do, because then you'll go ahead and get that. And, you know, tomorrow, instead of a live stream, I think we're going to be in Discord because I'm working on an animation. So, NVD, I called you. Yeah, I remember that. All right, thanks, everyone. This is Chief Crow, Auto Hoax.